Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
Why does Maria smile at you like that? They teased, pulling me back from the brink of despair. But while my daughter's laughter tried to heal me, the scars of betrayal ran deep. My ex-wife's affairs echoed in every interaction. Even now, I saw Maria's kindness as a trap, her warmth as a facade. Could I trust again? My ex had reduced love to ashes, and all I knew was pain. My heart? It was hers to unchain or destroy. The next morning, we all gathered around the kitchen table while Dawn prepared French toast. Megan was sipping her coffee when she turned to Robin and said, "You tell him I'm too tired." Robin replied cheerfully, "Okay." "Daddy," she called. "Yes, Pumpkin. Maria, Vanessa, Kathy, and Freddie all think you're silly." "That's true, honey, but I'm a nice silly," Dawn said without stopping to flip the French toast. "We started a club to help you be a better you so you can meet more people. Is that all right?" "That sounds good. I could use a little help. Do we need to pay for it?" Robin looked at me, and I quickly shook my head no. "No, Daddy, it's free." All my friends were trying to hide their laughter, and I think Freddie was about to burst into giggles. "What's the name of the club?" Dawn asked. "The Perfecting Daddy Association," Robin answered. Megan seemed uninterested and continued sipping her coffee like this was normal. "That's a nice name. Do we get shirts?" asked Dawn. "No, just caps." "Well, I guess that's better than nothing." With those words, we were officially in business. I started thinking that maybe I needed a little help, too. I'm silly, I'm silly, I'm silly, 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 I'm silly, I'm silly, I'm silly, silly, silly. I was half singing and mumbling to myself while making breakfast, matching the tune from a famous piece of music. When Robin told me what Maria and her friends thought of me, my first thought was, it took them long enough to see that. Honestly, it bothered me a bit because it brought back some tough memories. I must have seemed silly for my ex-wife to cheat on me so openly for years, with my sisters supporting her. But I had to stay calm. At least my new friends wanted to help me. I appreciated that Robin got right to the point. I knew they were doing this out of kindness, and it would probably take a lot of work. On the bright side, I was getting personal lessons from 4 former models. I could live with that. But maybe I should pretend I burned the French toast? I finished cooking and joined them at the table to eat. "Okay, when do we start the lessons and what will they be?" Of course, I waited until everyone had food in their mouths or was drinking coffee. Food and coffee flew everywhere, and I happily high-fived Robin. Megan, who was still sipping her coffee, managed not to spray any. Kathy said, "We thought we would go skiing today, and tonight Maria would give dance lessons again. That's part of your improvement." Sounds good to me. I had a great time skiing that day, only my daughters and Freddie stayed close to me. I think the others felt too shy. That night, I was let down to find out that since I was part of the plan to change, I wouldn't get a baseball cap. What a disappointment. But maybe the hat would have said official dork, and I wouldn't have liked that anyway. Kathy stepped in to explain things after my lessons. "Don, we all think you're a great guy, but your confidence really took a hit because of the divorce. We want to help you not only get that confidence back, but also make you more appealing. You definitely have what it takes. But there are some things we think you should learn, and a few areas to improve. Once we do that, you'll be quite the catch. Then the 4 of us will take you out on practice outings. When we think you are ready, we will set you up with a nice girl. Just trust us." Why did this remind me of Pygmalion? What hurt most was that they would eventually try to find someone for me other than themselves. I secretly hoped one of my new friends might like me. Deep down, I wished that my moment with Maria had meant something, and that maybe she cared for me. But let's be honest, Maria is a wealthy, beautiful former model, and I'm just an ordinary guy. My sisters had turned against me. My friends believed I was okay with what happened. My co-workers had so little respect that they didn't even tell me about my unfaithful wife. To make it worse, my daughters had the same misunderstandings about me for a while. Cuckolded dork was too nice a name. Something new should be made just for me. I knew if I showed my disappointment, they would just say something nice to make me feel better. But it wouldn't mean much. As for Maria, there was no way she could be interested in me, but I was still drawn to her. I felt like a complete failure. I needed to let go of someone I was never really involved with, but I didn't know how. A song lyric popped into my mind. Unchain my heart because you don't care about me. With that sad thought spinning in my head, I said I was sleepy and decided to go to bed early. First, I needed a long, warm shower. In those quiet moments, you can think clearly without anyone else around. I finally fell asleep around 4 a.m. after spending most of that time in the bathroom. With daughters, that's the only place a guy can find some peace. I felt hurt, but it was my own fault. I had created a dream in my mind and let it feel too real. The morning was tough. I woke up around 6:30 and wanted to hide in my room or go home alone. But I couldn't do that. First, my daughters needed me. Second, my friends didn't deserve to lose my support. They liked me, but none of them loved me, and I shouldn't have expected anything else. I kept looking at my reflection in the mirror. My eyes looked worn out, and it was impossible to hide that. I needed to exercise to lift my spirits. I checked the clock again, and it was still too early. Instead of staying in my room, maybe I should sneak down to Maria's gym for a good workout. So that's exactly what I did. Normally, I like to exercise for 2 hours, but sometimes I only manage an hour. Today I was able to work out for 3.5 hours, lifting weights, doing crunches, and spending a lot of time on the treadmill. It really helped me feel better. Vanessa was the one who eventually found me. It seemed everyone had been looking for me, and she was the one who thought to check the basement gym. "Don, we've been searching everywhere for you. How long have you been down here?" I slowed the treadmill and adjusted it so we could talk. "Oh, hi, Vanessa. I just got up a little early. I've missed my regular workouts and thought I'd hit the gym. I wasn't hiding or anything." "Oh, yes, I was." "Well, breakfast is ready. Come upstairs soon, all right?" "Vanessa, you own a gym. You understand how it is. I need to cool down on the treadmill and then shower. It will take at least 20 to 30 minutes, even if I hurry." I turned down the speed and incline a bit more. "Okay, just be as quick as you can. I'll let everyone know where you are, and we'll keep your breakfast warm." A few minutes later, my kids came downstairs to check on me. They were happy to find me, and I felt bad for making them worry. They waited until I finished my cool-down, and then urged me to hurry upstairs for a quick shower. When I arrived in the kitchen, everyone was eating slowly so I wouldn't be by myself. They were really kind. They touched my heart, but also made me realize how much I valued their support. Once I felt refreshed, I knew it was time to think about dating again. I needed to stop dwelling on the past and make an effort to meet new people. I didn't want to grow old feeling alone. Later that day, we went skiing again, and both Vanessa and Freddie stayed close to me. Kathy and Maria kept their distance. That night, there were more dance lessons, and Vanessa told me I would start some training in the morning. By 7 o'clock, Vanessa and I were working hard in the gym. She started by showing me some new exercises for my core and chest. They were hard but doable. "Don, you are one of the strongest people I know. The only people I know who are stronger are a couple of friends who are power lifters, and I believe you could earn their respect for your strength. I hate to say it, but we need to help you get fit. This means changing your eating habits a bit." "A diet?" I asked, surprised. "I'm sorry, but yes. We will start by reducing how many carbs you eat and keeping an eye on your fats, too." "For how long?" "Based on what I've seen, you really enjoy breads, pastas, cakes, and cookies. Even with all the exercise you do, you'll need to be careful with carbs for some time." It felt like she wanted to say, forever, but I didn't press the point. "We won't start until January 1st, so you can enjoy the holidays." I felt a wave of relief. I wouldn't have to miss out on my favorite snacks during the celebrations. The food would be served from 3 in the afternoon until 1 in the morning. On New Year's Eve, I hardly leave the kitchen except for the midnight toast. I like to keep the food warm and fresh by making small batches throughout the event. I also plan to use Maria's Christmas train for the evening. After our workout, we showered, had breakfast, and went skiing. That evening, I had dance lessons. The next day was similar. On New Year's Eve morning, I took a 3-hour trip to pick up some fresh seafood I had ordered. I arrived at the store at 9 a.m. and got back to Maria's by 1 p.m. Let the celebration begin. I asked everyone to leave the kitchen. I wanted the food to be a surprise until I presented it. First, I set up the train with its 3 large, open cars, perfect for serving dishes. I programmed it to start from its charging station in the kitchen, go through the movie room, loop around the chairs there, then to the great room before returning to the kitchen. The train had feelers that would make it stop if anything got in its way. If you needed it to stop, you just had to put your foot out. I began cooking delicious food in the kitchen with a couple of deep fryers. It would get messy, but that's part of the fun. I started with a batch of coconut chicken wings and coconut shrimp. I had homemade mini pizzas in the oven and was cooking Italian sausage, ready to slice for easy serving. Broiled kielbasa was getting a similar treatment, and I had stuffed mushrooms roasting in another oven. I had 6 ovens to use, and I was truly happy in the kitchen. I sent out the first batch of food with excitement. Soon, Maria came into the kitchen, looking a bit shy. "How much food are you planning to make?" "You haven't seen anything yet. I'm just getting started." "Can I invite a few friends? There might be too much food for just us," she asked. "Of course, it's your house. Go ahead." The first guests to arrive were Carl and his wife, Lucille. They had just returned from visiting their children and grandchildren, and Lucille was still using a cane because of her recent accident. She greeted me and went back to join the other girls in the movie room. Carl brought along some delicious homemade beer, a refreshing amber lager. We quickly became good friends. He became my helper in the kitchen and bartender. I would put food on a plate, and he would load it onto a toy train. When it came back, he would unload the dirty dishes and wash them. Most importantly, he would refill my beer when it was low. We chatted about many things, like tools, fishing, poker, sports, kids, and hunting. I had always wanted to go hunting, but my father passed away when I was young, so I never had anyone to teach me, or the time to go. As we worked, one of us started humming Chattanooga Choo Choo because of the toy train, and before long we were both singing it loudly. Maria's kitchen was the best I had ever seen. It even had a sound system. I'm not sure where Carl found it, but he brought in a CD with songs from the swing era. We listened to and sometimes sang along to songs like In the Mood, Mac the Knife, Sentimental Journey, Ain't Misbehavin', and Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy. Occasionally, we even tried to dance, but that never lasted long. Carl wasn't a great dancer and wouldn't let me lead. I could use another beer. We began sending out trays of seafood like Dungeness crab, mussels, clams, oysters, and shrimp, along with another tray of mushrooms. More guests arrived, including Nancy and some of Maria's friends from the lodge. Every once in a while, someone would check on us, but we were fine, just a little tipsy. I think our singing made some people keep their distance, but now and then someone would stay and watch, either impressed or surprised by our singing. Carl had gone back home earlier, but returned with some tasty dark beer and more CDs. Maria's lovely kitchen was a bit messy, but I figured a few spills were okay. I never spilled my beer. At 11:45, we sent a tray of champagne back to the movie room. When midnight struck, my kids gave me hugs, and then they hugged Maria too. Maria gave me a friendly kiss on the cheek. I appreciated the affection from my friends. Carl and I started the final cooking. After we finished, we sat down with the last 6-pack of drinks and began playing cards at the kitchen table. We were a bit tipsy by the end of the beer, and I realized I owed Carl quite a bit since we were playing for quite a lot of money. "Did you know that homemade drinks can be stronger than store-bought ones?" "Daddy, Daddy." Megan stood there looking worried. "Yes, dear. I think you should go to bed. But the kitchen is a mess. I need to clean it." "Don, don't worry about the kitchen. Tomorrow is my scheduled day for cleaning. They'll take care of it." Maria looked concerned, with Vanessa nodding in agreement. I noticed Carl had already left. I didn't even remember him going, and I hadn't drunk this much in a while. "Okay, sounds good." I climbed the stairs with Megan, Robin, Maria, and Vanessa nearby in case I stumbled. But I surprised them and didn't trip until I reached the upstairs hallway. Megan was chatting with Maria. "Daddy rarely drinks. The most I've seen him have is 4 drinks in an entire day." I thought it would be fun to sing. "How dry I am. How wet I'll be if I don't find the bathroom key." No, that wasn't right. What should I sing next? Vanessa seemed strong for a lady. I turned to Maria and suddenly thought of the perfect song. "Unchain my heart, baby, let me be. Unchain my heart, 'cause you don't care about me." My singing wasn't great. It was more like noisy mumbling, and I was no Joe Cocker or Ray Charles. But I noticed Vanessa looking at me with a mix of surprise and concern. She was probably the only one close enough to hear me. The next morning, I woke up feeling awful. My oldest daughter was looking down at me with a worried expression. She held a cup of coffee in one hand and a glass with ice in the other. Can anyone say revenge? She helped me sit up while I groaned a bit. "Here, Daddy, drink this," she said, handing me the coffee. Then she went to the bathroom and returned with a towel. She placed the cool towel on my head, and it felt great against my aching head. I always knew I could count on her. Vanessa and Freddie burst into the room with Maria following them. I apologized for acting foolishly the night before, and they all said it wasn't a problem. They praised the delicious food I had made. I only prepare that kind of feast once a year. I don't think anyone could handle it more often. Instead of teasing me about my headache, Vanessa and Freddie pretended I had a good reason for feeling this way. That's not true, of course. Maria seemed quiet and gave me some odd looks. I must have surprised her with how I was acting. I really hoped I didn't risk our friendship. I wouldn't want to cause any trouble like that, and it would break my daughter's hearts. They brought me some water and medicine, then told me to rest. A couple of hours later, Megan came back to check on me. I felt better, but I still wanted to sleep. Before she left, I asked her to play a movie for me, just something to keep me company. She picked up my DVD case and started looking through it. "Daddy, do you want to watch Houseboat?" she asked. "No, I've seen that enough times. I think there's an Abbott and Costello movie in there. Please put that in." She looked at me strangely but did what I asked, and then left the room. I spent the day resting and healing. My girls and friends watched movies. There were no dance lessons that night. The next day, I woke up early to go to the gym. Vanessa joined me about an hour later to help out and get her own workout. I was happy to lift 360 pounds, but Vanessa was excited to help me with heavy weights. I started to worry a little about what I had signed up for with her as my trainer. No offense to powerlifters, but I would need to buy some new shirts if she pushed me too hard. For the next 4 days, I worked out in the morning, skied all day, cooked dinner, and had dance lessons. I kept busy. The hardest part was the low-carb diet Vanessa put me on. Then my own daughters joined in to make sure I stuck to it. Maria rode back with us on Sunday. She and my girls played games together almost the whole trip. I was really concerned. Don reacted to the public hugs better than I expected. He acted a bit strange for a few days, but he didn't seem angry. I couldn't believe how much food he made for New Year's Eve. And then he and Carl had a bit too much fun. I think guys need that sometimes. I figured he was worried I might be upset with him. He was super polite for the rest of our time in the mountains. To keep things interesting, I acted a bit distant toward him, too. So when we meet again, he won't act like that too often. Am I good at this game or what? On Wednesday, I went to his apartment as usual. I even got there a little early and let myself in. My girls were excited to see me, and we had a long chat about their mother. I was happy with how they were handling things with her, but I felt a little jealous, too. Still, they were right. Any improvement in their relationship with their mother was really what was best for all of them. I decided I could share the girls. I could accept that. It felt right, and I needed to change how I thought about my relationship with them. They were still my girls, but they were also Barbara's, and I couldn't take her place as their mother. I kept reminding myself that having part of something is better than having none at all. When I entered Don's office to see his new chair, I found out it still hadn't arrived. I would need to call the company and ask them to hurry up. I was there so early that the girls took me downstairs to meet Ken, the designer of my jewelry. He was working on other pieces in Don's workshop. It quickly became clear that Don was right. Ken was having a hard time finding work. It seemed silly that such a talented young man couldn't get a good job. He was trying to sell custom jewelry and offering more affordable items at street fairs, but the costs for materials were high, and he couldn't afford all the tools he needed. He mentioned that without Don's support and workshop, he might go out of business. Don had actually given him an extra month of rent for free and a check for $5,000 because my friends and I liked our gifts so much. I told Ken I might be able to help him, but I needed to check on a few things and call him back. We exchanged phone numbers. I usually don't wear bracelets, but I admired the ones he made for Freddie and Vanessa, so I asked Ken to create one for me to match the pieces he had already made. It would be a good deal for him. After talking with Ken, the girls and I went back upstairs to wait for Don. He arrived looking very down, clearly having a rough day at work. On the way to the therapist, I shared my idea about helping Ken. He was impressed and praised me for being so supportive of my friends. Don was eager to help with my plan for Ken. Now I just needed to get Freddie, Vanessa, and Kathy on board. In a hidden place that looked a lot like Freddie's studio, with art supplies everywhere, the PDA Secret Security Directorate was having a meeting. It was so secret that even the president of the PDA didn't know about it. The blonde leader, who went by the code name Sister Day, spoke to her team. That was Agent M on the line. Things have taken a turn for the worse. The only music Don listens to is the same song on repeat. He even got rid of the Houseboat DVD. The situation is serious. She turned to the red-haired member. Sister Flounder, should we tell Maria what's going on or keep it to ourselves? Sister Flounder frowned at her code name, but since everyone else had chosen it, she went along with it. At least it would be a helpful paper for her doctorate, she thought. If we tell Maria, I see two likely outcomes. First, she might still think of herself as the Great Scarlet Woman, feeling unworthy of St. Dawn, and say something like, "Oh, this is probably for the best." Second, she might go to him, and they could spend a lot of time just focused on each other. Considering how Maria seems a bit oblivious, I think the first option is more likely. I really wish we had more success in stopping that hurtful nickname of hers that's come back. If we push too hard with people she knows to stop using it, they'll just use it more out of habit. They know it hurts her, and also how kind and generous she is. They think that since they don't say it to her face, she doesn't hear it. Then they wonder why she doesn't hang out as much, the fools. The dark-haired Sister Bluto asked, "So, what are we going to do?" Sister Flounder replied, "We need to encourage Maria more, help lift Don's spirits, and make sure other women don't spend time with him, so Maria has time to think." Sister Day stood up. "And that is what this security directorate was made for, to keep all other women away from Don. Let's remember they are both our friends. If Don gets involved with another woman, we might never get the pie again." "Let's close this meeting now," Sister Flounder said firmly. "I'm not doing that handshake again, it's embarrassing. You two have strange ideas, and if you keep it up, I'm going to tell Megan and Robin." Another weekend at Maria's house came around. Freddie and Kathy called me in a panic for some reason and begged me to bring the pie. They're good friends, so I brought two. I've given them the recipe. I don't know why they don't make it themselves. The weekend followed the usual pattern. Friday night we have dinner and the girls watch movies. Saturday includes morning exercises, breakfast, skiing during the day, dinner, and dancing at night until we're tired. Then the girls watch more movies while I go to bed. Sunday starts with exercise in the morning and breakfast. Hold on, Vanessa is talking to me. "Don, I was thinking you work right by my gym. If you're free on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you could stop by after work and get a good workout. You would progress a lot faster that way. I know you exercise at home, but this would let me adjust your routine for the best results." "That sounds good, but your gym is just for ladies. Will this cause you problems with your clients?" "No, I do have some men there occasionally. If a client has a problem with it, you might have to leave. But that has never happened before. While they pay to come to a women's-only gym, they don't seem to mind having a guy there once in a while." "Okay, then I'll see you Tuesday after work." "Would 7 p.m. be okay?" "That would be fine, Don. See you then." So, on Tuesday after dinner, I followed Vanessa's directions to her day spa and gym. When I arrived, I was really impressed. It was much bigger than I expected. As I walked through the doors, I noticed a display for Ken's jewelry creations. There were pictures of Vanessa, Freddie, Kathy, and Maria showing off his work. I saw a small stack of brochures and a holder for business cards. I had created the website for Ken. I also updated Vanessa's business website and made one for Freddie's studio. I heard that Freddie has the same display set up in her studio, which has worked even better for Ken than the one here. Besides her beautiful traditional paintings, Freddie's main business is body art. Many people who like body art also enjoy unique jewelry. Maria has some great ideas. Vanessa was already waiting for me at the reception desk. "Hi, Don. Did you have any trouble finding the place?" "No, not at all. I'm really impressed. Your club is much bigger than I thought." "That's because we have a full-size pool, which is rare for places like this. I believe swimming is one of the best exercises, especially for older clients. It was a big expense at first, but now it's one of our biggest attractions. I feel a bit silly. I thought your place was smaller, and to make up for it, I planned to bake some cookies. Kind of silly, right? Vanessa lights up, and so do her receptionist and 2 customers nearby. I wouldn't say that, Don. It's a really sweet thought, literally. I thought I smelled cookies when you came in. How many do you have in that box? 3 dozen chocolate chip and 3 dozen white chocolate macadamia nut. I put the box on the counter and open it. The ladies gather around, excited. The receptionist asks if she can have one. They're Vanessa's cookies. She gets to decide. Vanessa nods and everyone reaches in to grab a cookie. Don, I think you're going to become the most popular member here. I need to use Vanessa's office to change. Then she leads me through a tough workout. Throughout the evening, women at the club stop by to thank me for the cookies. I have a plan. Since I realized that Maria wasn't interested in me, I want to make the most of every chance to meet new women. Maria and her friends enjoy my cooking, and I think that will help me start conversations. I plan to wait until I feel more comfortable at the club before talking casually with some of the women. As Maria mentioned, I can learn from this experience. If I don't meet someone special, I'll use what I learn next time. It's time to take action. I get a good workout at Vanessa's gym, even though she keeps telling me to lift heavier weights. I spend an hour and a half on the treadmill. I like running on it more because it's easier on my knees and feet, and I enjoy the comfortable, climate-controlled setting. When I'm finished, Vanessa says she can watch my things while I shower in the locker room, but I choose to drive home in my sweatpants. Sister Day, this is Sister Bluto. Don just left and brought cookies. I told some of my favorite clients about him, and they made sure to welcome him. But you know Don, he is always a gentleman. Did you save me any cookies? I tried, but by the time I got back, the box was empty. Not even a crumb was left. Oh no, no cookies for me. Too many ladies at your gym have now enjoyed his baking. You should be careful. You probably have some food lovers at your gym. He's a nice-looking guy who can cook really well. To a foodie, he'd be very appealing. Keep an eye on him. If any gym members show special interest, let me know. We might need to change our plans to help Don feel more confident. It could have been worse. Just imagine if he brought something really special to my gym. We would have been swamped with attention. I can picture some of my members playfully making plans to attract attention to him. There's this one woman who loves chocolate. She's wealthy, strong, and works out a lot because of her love for sweets. She would have whisked Don away on her father's jet for a spontaneous trip to Vegas after just one bite of his pie. I've arranged with her trainer to encourage her to use the pool whenever she and Don are both there. Yes, we might have made a big mistake suggesting that Don work out at your gym, but we never could have predicted that he would bring food. It makes me think that Don is trying to make new friends, but that would be quite a change for him. We can't back out now. It would be rude to Don. Do your best, Vanessa. If I can help in any way, just call me. Thanks, Freddie. I might just take you up on that. Since both you and Kathy are members here, you might need to change your workout times to help me keep an eye on Don. I'll let you know if that's necessary. This is Sister Bluto signing off. Bye, Sister Bluto. And remember, next time Don brings food, save some for me and Sister Flounder. She might seem serious sometimes, but she really loves food too. If she finds out you didn't save her any cookies, she'll give you a hard time for weeks. For the next couple of months, life settled into a pattern. I saw my therapist on Mondays and spent Tuesdays and Thursdays at Vanessa's gym. Every Wednesday, Maria came over and we took my daughters to their therapist. From Friday to Sunday, we spent time at Maria's house dancing, exercising, skiing, and enjoying treats. Sometimes, after our Wednesday therapy sessions, Maria would give us dance lessons instead of watching movies or playing games with my girls. It was a bit tricky to move furniture to make enough space for dancing. At the end of January, I had a meeting with Ken and almost missed my order. His business was doing great, but he promised to have my request ready on time. One Wednesday, Maria spent the whole afternoon at my apartment. She got annoyed waiting for a Christmas present for me, so she took matters into her own hands and arranged for the delivery herself. It was a lovely surprise when I got home. Maria is always so kind to her friends. I was feeling very upset. Don had some work issues that really messed up our travel plans for February 21st, and I couldn't drive with my daughters to our mountain home. To make matters worse, Vanessa, Freddie, and Kathy teased me the whole ride there. I just hoped that this weekend would get better, or I would be really unhappy. It got even worse. Don hurt his knee, so he couldn't ski all weekend. I wanted to stay home to take care of him, but everyone insisted we go skiing. When Megan and Robin gave me their big, pleading eyes, I gave in. Don needed someone to look after him, and I wanted to do it, but they wouldn't let me. Sometimes I wondered, with friends like this, who needs enemies? I insisted that he let me ask Lucille to come and make dinner for us, and he agreed, though I thought he was glad to have the help. Skiing almost made up for my disappointment. Megan and Robin were so sweet and playful, and it would have been perfect if Don could have been with us. When we got back from skiing, the house smelled wonderful. Lucille was at the kitchen door, ready to greet us. Don was sitting in the living room with his leg propped up when we walked in. "Hi, Maria, Freddie, Vanessa, Kathy, and my little treasures. Did you have a good time skiing?" he asked. "Yes, but we're really hungry," I replied as everyone hurried upstairs, eager to freshen up and eat. I quickly followed them to keep dinner on track. When I returned downstairs, Megan and Robin were waiting for me. They told me that since Carl and Lucille were around, we would be dining in the dining room, and they seemed excited about it. It felt special, as I rarely use that room, but since they wanted to eat there, I wasn't going to argue. The house was filled with delightful smells, as if someone had prepared a feast. The double sliding wooden doors to the dining room were closed. Curious, Megan and Robin opened the doors, revealing me in the middle. "Happy birthday, Maria!" Noisemakers sounded, people clapped, and a big banner with balloons showing my name filled the room. Along with the people I expected, my friends from the lodge were there. Even Richard, my ex-husband. He was smiling and clapping just as much as everyone else. Megan and Robin hugged me tightly, both saying, "Happy birthday." I looked over at Don, who was playfully using a noisemaker, but he seemed a little down. The table was full of delicious food. There were 2 big garlic-encrusted prime ribs, Yorkshire pudding, Dungeness crab, sautéed spinach, asparagus, rolls, pasta with garlic and olive oil, Italian sausage, shrimp, and mashed potatoes. We would have plenty to enjoy for days. On the sideboard was a beautiful cake already decorated with candles. This was the best birthday I had since my parents passed away. Having my friends around felt amazing. I was so happy that tears kept coming to my eyes. Megan and Robin sat close and kept encouraging me to eat. I noticed Don's eyes looked a little misty too, and he didn't seem very hungry. After dinner, they brought out the cake with all 35 candles lit. The cake read, "Happy birthday, Maria. We all love you." I pulled Megan and Robin close to help me blow out all the candles. On 3, we all blew and cameras flashed. I think my tears helped put out the flames. Everyone agreed that since we were all too full, we would save the cake for later. Then it was time for me to open my presents. I received many lovely gifts, but I felt a mix of excitement and hope as I opened the heavy, small box from Don, Megan, and Robin. I wondered if it would be as nice as the gift I got for Christmas. Inside was a beautiful platinum and diamond brooch that matched my other pieces. I turned it over to find an inscription. "To Maria, thank you for coming into our lives. All our love, Megan, Robin, and Don. February 26th, 09. It was so stunning that I felt overwhelmed. My friends hugged me tight, and everyone gathered around to share my joy. That night, we danced and played games until almost 11. Then we got into our pajamas to watch movies while the men took care of us. Nancy and Lucille seemed to be having a great time. We finally cut the cake and enjoyed it again. The men stayed in the kitchen playing cards until about 3. Throughout the night, along with the cake and ice cream, they served us pizza, stuffed mushrooms, and homemade fries. Eventually, the men went to bed. Soon after, we all fell asleep on the couches, chairs, and recliners in the movie room. Throughout the evening, Robin and Freddie took many pictures, and I needed to make sure to get copies to help me remember this wonderful night. I finally met Maria's ex-husband, Richard. He seemed like a nice guy. The first thing he did was say sorry for any misunderstandings from his past actions. He explained that Maria was like a sister to him, and he felt it was important to look out for her. I accepted his apology and told him I understood. While we cooked and enjoyed some drinks, I learned a lot about Richard. Years ago, when Maria was still a model, She used a financial firm to handle her money. Richard worked there and helped connect clients like Maria to the people making important decisions. While Richard was there, the management changed, and the new team made choices he didn't agree with. He knew standing up for his beliefs could cost him his job, but he wanted to help the clients he worked with. So he gave them advice on what to do. Eventually, the company faced problems. The higher-ups didn't want to take the blame, so they publicly held Richard responsible and let him go. This hurt his reputation deeply. I knew from Maria that Richard had grown up without parents and couldn't afford a good education. He had very little savings and struggled to find another job in finance. Maria and others who listened to his advice avoided financial trouble. Later, when she asked about him at the firm, she learned he had been let go. She quickly requested her funds and went to find him. She found him in his small apartment looking for job ads. Maria asked and then convinced him to manage her money, saying he was the only person she would trust with her savings. She also reached out to other clients he had helped and encouraged them to do the same. She was careful in her approach, wanting to shield Richard from any issues with his old job. Since these clients had smaller accounts, the firm hardly noticed their withdrawals. For Richard, it was enough to start his own company, and he was able to pay himself more than he had before. Over the next year and a half, Maria and he grew quite close, especially after the loss of her parents. He admitted that it was a mistake for them to marry. They loved each other, but more like family than spouses. Eventually, they accepted this truth and had an amicable divorce. For some reason, he told me to take care of Maria, saying she was his only family and he wanted to protect her. I brushed it off. I had no plans to hurt or marry Maria. We talked a lot about money and investing. He impressed me. He was probably the only person I would ever trust with my savings. I told him about my special programs that I created to keep track of my investments, and he was interested in seeing them. He then shared some great advice about other resources I could use for safer investments and to improve my programs. By the end of the night, I thought he had only shared all this to keep me distracted. He and Carl had a lively game of Pinochle. As a fun twist, I made sure David and I enjoyed the last two of Carl's beers. On Wednesday, Maria came by as usual, but we had not told her that we canceled our therapy session for the night. My daughters and I decided to celebrate Maria's birthday a bit earlier, which was the next day. When Maria arrived, we had decorated with a banner, balloons, and cake on the table. I figured they might be tired of chocolate, so I baked a white cake with raspberry and lemon filling. She got emotional again and asked Megan and Robin to sit close to her at the table. For dinner, I made the Korean pork dish that they loved so much. After dinner, it was time for gifts. They surprised me with another party. I wanted this. I wanted to be with them. I wished we could find a way to move somewhere new together and build a life as a family. After dinner and blowing out the candles on the cake, I received more gifts. They gave me toys. No one had given me toys since childhood, and it was such a joy. I got 4 Nerf guns, 2 big ones and 2 smaller ones, each with holsters and plenty of darts. Then Megan, Robin, and Don went behind the couch and found even more Nerf guns with holsters. They looked wild. Megan had a big gun that seemed to have a belt with it. Robin stood in front of me, pumped her gun, and asked playfully, "Do you feel lucky?" The fun battle began. We changed sides a lot and ran all over the apartment, finally taking the games down to the basement. At one point, Don and I teamed up to defend the kitchen. By then, we were hungry again and made some snacks. But just as we set the food on the plates, my girls surprised us with Nerf guns that Don didn't know they had. We were chased out of the kitchen, and to make it worse, Megan and Robin happily enjoyed the snacks we had just made. Don and I decided to have some fun by surprising our friends near the bathrooms and bedrooms. On February 25th, we finally agreed to a peace treaty, which ended our exciting Nerf battle at Don's apartment. It was a lot of fun, and I hope we can do it again in the future, maybe at my mountain home. But first, I need to find a better plan. That night, we watched movies. Only small Nerf guns were allowed, and they could be used only for self-defense as per our treaty. The next morning was my birthday. I got to hear "Happy Birthday" during breakfast and received lots of hugs from my kids, along with a friendly kiss on the cheek from Don. I might have wished for a bit more affection, but it was still a great start to my birthday week. A big change in my life began during Saturday dinner at Maria's house. Earlier that day while skiing, I noticed Maria and her friends having lively discussions. My daughter seemed to know what was happening and looked quite entertained. That evening, Vanessa turned to me at dinner. "Dawn, you've been doing great in your dancing lessons, so we've decided it's time for your first practice date. Does that mean I'm officially recognized now?" "No, you're still a bit of a goof, but we love you for it," Freddie said with a smile. "There's a nice dinner and dance club that opened a couple of years ago. It's perfect for ballroom dancing and has live music on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. Instead of coming to my gym this Thursday, let's go there for dinner and see how you do on the dance floor." "Vanessa, that sounds fun, but don't those places have expensive, average food? I'd much prefer to cook dinner at my place. I can make whatever you like, and it'll still feel like a real date there and at the dance club. What do you think?" Vanessa's eyes brightened at the offer. If I was going to practice meeting new women, I figured cooking should be part of it. "Well, Dawn, I think—" she started, but Kathy suddenly interrupted her with a serious look. "Wait a minute. We agreed Vanessa could go first, but we didn't know that Don would be cooking for his practice date. I think we need to talk about this." The other women looked ready to agree, so I thought I should calm things down. "I'm really glad you all like my cooking. I prefer cooking at home rather than eating at restaurants, where the food is often just okay. Just let me know what you want, and I'd be happy to make it for you. Please, anything I've made for you already is fine, except for the turkey. That takes too long to cook." My words seemed to make everyone calm down and smile, except for Maria, who still looked a bit upset. On Thursday, Vanessa came over at 6:30. I had made prime rib, Yorkshire pudding, and a pie for dessert. I wanted to make everyone laugh by acting silly, but she insisted on being serious since we were just practicing. We greeted each other warmly at the door. I enjoy friendly gestures from friends, and before dinner, I showed her around my apartment. Since she had never been here before, she seemed surprised when she saw the guest bedroom. "Vanessa, you look beautiful tonight." She wore a lovely short red dress. "Did you notice I'm wearing the jewelry you gave me?" She showed me her bracelet. "I get so many compliments on these. Thank you again for such a nice gift." "I can't take all the credit, Vanessa. Ken really helped me out. I'm just so happy that you, Maria, Freddie, and Kathy love them. You've done so much for me and my family. What you're doing for me tonight is really kind, and I want to find a way to show my appreciation. Making dinner and covering the bill at the club is thanks enough, Don. I get to take some pie home, right?" she asked playfully. I assured her she could definitely take some home. A long time ago, I made too many pies and got a bit tired of them. Lately, I was trying to create a new lemon meringue pie, hoping to keep that fresh lemon flavor, but I hadn't succeeded yet. I like to serve fruit preserves with my Yorkshire pudding to mix things up, so I offered cherry almond butter. At first, it felt a little strange being alone with Vanessa, but once she started eating, her excitement came out, just like the tiger charm on her bracelet. I didn't know tigers like cherries. Both Vanessa and I care about staying fit and having energy, but we often don't have enough time during the week to exercise. I was surprised. I thought we had talked about all sorts of activities during my workouts with her, but we found new topics to discuss like hiking, biking, diving, and even skydiving. I hadn't gone diving in years and really missed it. I've always wanted to try skydiving. It almost felt like she was hinting at a vacation to Hawaii or the Florida Keys, and I wondered if there was something more between us. But no, she probably just wanted a diving partner. After dinner, Vanessa had 3 big pieces of pie. I was amazed, especially after all the prime rib and Yorkshire pudding she had just eaten. Just as we were about to leave for the club, Vanessa suddenly looked worried. I had a good idea of what it was about. "Don, could I use your bathroom for a minute?" "Of course, Vanessa. Don't worry about me. Take your time. I just want you to feel comfortable tonight. I'll be here, keeping myself occupied while you're in there." A look of relief crossed her face. "Thank you, Don," she said, heading to the bathroom. I didn't really need my computer, but I wanted her to know I was busy while she took care of herself. Maybe I should have offered her a magazine? She was in there a while. I knew my cooking hadn't upset her stomach. She probably just ate too much. When I heard her leave the bathroom, I pretended to focus on my computer so she wouldn't feel embarrassed. I noticed her steps were a bit slow. "Don, are you there?" "I'm in my office, Vanessa. Sorry, I got distracted. I was just checking on some sales. There's a new tool I'm interested in, but it's never on sale. When she walked into my office, I saw her worried expression relax. I closed my computer and stood up. I'm ready to go. We walked out to her car, a white Mustang GT 500 with red racing stripes. I usually prefer practical cars, but seeing Vanessa's new ride made me think twice. It really was impressive. I hope you don't mind me driving, Don. This club can be tricky to find, and I know where to park. As I settled into the passenger seat, I said, I don't really enjoy driving. It's just something I have to do. I'd rather be driven around, especially in this beautiful car with such a wonderful lady. Forgive me, but this is great. I smiled at her. You're forgiven, silly. I just had a nice meal and still have dessert. Because of that, I'll even let you be yourself in my new car, she joked, grinning back at me. It was a light-hearted moment, and since we were workout partners, we often teased each other about our exercise journeys. Sometimes laughter helps lighten the mood. As we arrived at the club, it was busy but not overly crowded, which was nice. We had plenty of space to dance. I felt more confident with my waltz, though I still needed to practice my tango. Since Vanessa was my main dance partner, we put on a great show on the dance floor. She really impressed everyone with her dance moves, which made for an enjoyable night. Whenever we took a break, someone would usually come over to talk. Even the owner, Eva, came by. She was friendly and only a year or two older than me, but already ran a successful place. We ended up staying until midnight, even though we planned to leave at 11. We were having such a good time that we decided to stay until closing. Almost everyone else stayed too. When I went to pay the bar bill, I was told everything was free. I left a nice tip for our waiter. While I was getting our coats, I saw Vanessa chatting with Ava, who handed her something before leaving. Vanessa was almost bouncing in her seat on the way back to my apartment. We really impressed everyone tonight, Don. You did great. What do you mean? I asked. Wow, you really didn't notice much, did you? Why do you think everyone was looking at us? Why do you think so many people came over to our table? Because you're beautiful and a great dancer. Isn't that enough? Thanks for the compliment, but that's only part of it. You're good-looking, too. You turned out to be quite charming. Did you see that most of the people who came to our table were women? We looked good dancing. You may not know many moves yet, but you do the ones you know really well. Plus, we were clearly having a great time on the dance floor. That energy is contagious. It's why everyone stayed. We brought excitement. The owner covered our drinks because we were helping her business. She even gave me some VIP cards when we left. We have special parking spots, no cover charge, and a 10% discount. I've been here a lot with other talented dancers, and I've never been treated like this before. You love your old movies, Don, tonight. We were quite the dancing pair. I was surprised by Vanessa's excitement, but I thought she was mistaken. It felt like a long way to go from feeling unsure to being a confident dancer in just a few months. But at least I didn't embarrass myself, and that was something to feel good about. Vanessa dropped me off at home and then went to her own apartment. For a work night, we had stayed out pretty late. I was so upset that I couldn't help but cry and hit the pillows on my bed. I should have been the first person to have a special dinner with Don. I should have been the first to take Don dancing. It would be even worse if Vanessa and Don had a lot of fun together, and it was my own fault. I was too scared to go on a practice date with him. What if someone I knew saw us and called me that awful nickname? I was well known in Seattle's social scene. Why did I have to deal with my old reputation after my divorce from Richard? People had almost forgotten the old me. With Robert, he had his own problems and didn't judge me. But with Don, I would feel too shy if he found out. Vanessa, Kathy, and Freddie were right. Don needed to see how far he had come, but it should have been me. It felt so unfair. I broke down again, crying into my pillow. Vanessa went back to her own apartment, feeling completely upset. She didn't know what to do. The evening had been almost magical, even though her stomach hurt from what she had eaten. Don had been very kind and caring, acting busy on the computer while she felt unwell. She started to dance around her apartment, dreaming of being in Don's arms again. In her head, she heard the music and danced a little. But then she suddenly stopped. There might be trouble at that dance club. Many women there were looking at Don, and Eva, the club owner, was the boldest of them all. Don had said they were just friends, and when Eva asked her about it, she had to admit it. That's why Eva gave them 2 special cards, one for her and one for Don, so they could go separately. But Vanessa kept Don's card and hadn't given it to him. It was better to avoid temptation, she thought. There was something in Eva's gaze towards Don that made her uncomfortable. However, Vanessa had to admit she had been a bit too open, too. She had mentioned during dinner how much she would like to go on a trip with Don. She could easily picture walking on a beach with him, hand in hand. Stop it, Vanessa, she told herself. You promised Maria. She deserves the first chance with Don. Remember how Don has his guest room prepared for Maria? Don't go after him. She absent-mindedly touched her jewelry and thought about how Don had given her such lovely gifts for Christmas. A trip to maybe Hawaii wouldn't be too expensive, and I should get him a gift of equal value. That seemed fair. Just two friends going on a trip together. I laughed at the silliness of the idea. Rushing to her computer, she logged onto her favorite travel sites and started looking for dive packages. I asked everyone to meet at Don's apartment for the drive to my house. I wanted to make sure I would be going with my Don and my friends. I was done pretending. Somehow, some way, I would make Don mine. I took my time. It didn't matter how long it took, but he was going to be mine. Vanessa was supposed to drive my SUV with Kathy and Freddie in the back, but at the last moment, she changed her mind, and Freddie took the wheel instead. I thought about saying something but held back. Freddie was a decent driver and I was insured. I needed to relax. I was with my family. As I climbed into Don's SUV, I felt a bit uneasy. Vanessa kept giving Don looks that felt a little too warm for my liking. I hoped it was just my imagination, but I couldn't be sure. Don, how was your practice date with Vanessa? I asked. Vanessa said it went really well, but I'm not so sure. She might have just said that to make me feel good. I don't think I embarrass myself, and for a first practice date, I think that's enough, he replied. I didn't know how to respond. His answer was unclear. Vanessa might have been lying to spare Don's feelings, or he could be downplaying it because he wasn't confident. What did you do? I pressed for more information. We had dinner, then we went dancing, just like we planned, Don said with a shrug. Thankfully, my two allies in the back seat seemed equally curious. Dad, you're being too vague. We want more details, and you better share or else, Megan insisted. Yeah, Daddy, spill the details or no treats for a month, Robin added. It was just a practice date with Vanessa. Don't make it a big deal. Just then, as I started to say Don, in a serious tone, my daughters chimed in with Dad, and we all fell into a rhythm. Okay, give me a break. It was all pretty normal. Vanessa came to my apartment, I showed her around, and we had dinner. She drove us in her new car, which was really nice. You know me, I'm usually practical, but I felt a bit jealous of that Mustang, he continued. Maybe I should think about getting him one. I rarely heard Don express any desire for things except for tools. We arrived at the club and danced. It was fun to listen to a live band. A lot of people came to our table to talk, and even the owner stopped by often. Eva, the owner, seemed nice and was around our age. We stayed longer than we planned. We got there late, but because we were having a good time, we stayed until midnight. They were having fun? When we left, I learned that the owner had treated us to our drinks, which was kind of her. We only had a few drinks, the rest was just soda with a twist. Then, in the car, Vanessa told me that Eva had given us 2 VIP cards. Vanessa said we were engaging enough to keep other customers entertained until closing. She even compared us to classic dancers for the night. Please don't mention this to her, but while she seemed excited about that VIP card, I just don't see it that way. She is a lovely woman and a great dancer, but I am not a dancer myself, and there's no way we could keep a nightclub full of people entertained until closing. It was more surprising than I expected. I exchanged confused looks with Megan, who seemed to understand her father's success a bit, but Robin looked lost. I knew Eva quite well. She was confident and never gave anything away easily. For Don and Vanessa to be that successful on the dance floor, there had to be a real connection between them, especially since Don was still pretty new to it all. As a former professional dancer, I had never received a VIP card for that club. I wanted to cry again, but I couldn't do it in front of Don, Megan, and Robin. Don helped me out by pulling out the Yahtzee game. He never seemed to play music anymore, which was a relief because I wasn't sure I could sing. Meanwhile, in the SUV belonging to the security team, Freddie, Kathy, and Vanessa were discussing similar things. Vanessa had already mentioned Dawn's story, but she continued. Guys, I have a big issue and I feel really bad about it. I've been spending a lot of time with Dawn lately, almost as much as with Maria. We've been getting along really well at the gym. Last night felt magical on the dance floor, like something out of those old movies that Dawn likes. Everyone was watching, and we were so in the moment. I know that Maria has the first chance with him, but I'm almost completely falling for Dawn. After our outing, I nearly booked a getaway for just the two of us. I pictured romantic evenings and walks on the beach. At the last second, with my card out, I stopped myself. I didn't even ask Dawn if he wanted to go. He hasn't been diving anywhere nice for years, and he really misses it. I was going to surprise him, thinking he wouldn't want to waste the chance. Dawn would have gone along with it. He's trusting and careful with money. He wouldn't want to see a few $1,000s wasted. Please don't tell Maria. She was the one who helped me when I had nothing and believed in my club. I'm so sorry. Please don't say anything. Vanessa started to tear up. Kathy responded, I think we've all been so focused on Dawn lately. We've been worried about Maria's happiness but forgot about our own. I still managed to go on some real dates, but you two have really concentrated on Dawn. He is a great guy, but remember, there are plenty of other options out there. It's time for us to move on with our own lives. It might be nice to take a break one of these weekends and meet some new people. You've spent nearly all your weekends for the past 4 months with Maria. It's time to enjoy ourselves. We all appreciate her, but she wouldn't mind if we explored our own fun. There are some interesting people still skiing at the lodge. In past ski seasons, we've had plenty of company. It's time for us to get back into things. What do you all think? Vanessa tried her best to agree, but her response was a bit unsure. Kathy saw this as a small win, though. Freddie spoke up. I'm with you, but I still want to help Maria and Dawn. Personally, I'm looking forward to hanging out with Dawn. His cooking is great. We've dedicated 4 months to this project, and I'm fine with giving it a couple more before I feel restless. I owe Maria. She's a good friend, and I really like Dawn. I'm not saying you both have to follow my lead, but that's how I feel. Vanessa replied, I totally agree, Freddie. I just need to set my feelings for Dawn aside. But as you mentioned, Kathy, it's time for me to start dating again. All right, that sounds good. We'll give it our all for at least 2 more months, but let's also try to fit some dating into our lives. However, there's something else I think you both need to think about. When we told Dawn we would help him find real dates, it seemed to affect him. He might have thought that after his moment with Maria, he had a chance with her. Now we're telling him that we'll help him meet other women. He might think that if a woman really liked him, she wouldn't set him up with someone else. So in his mind, he might believe that Maria isn't interested in him, and it seems to have bothered him. The same goes for the 3 of us. While Dawn mainly liked Maria, we are 3 single women who have shown him interest for months. He has been alone for almost 3 years. It wouldn't be surprising if he thought that while things might not work out with Maria, maybe one of us would like him. Now we've burst his bubble by talking about helping him meet other people, and just like Maria hurt his feelings, we did too. Vanessa gasped, "Oh no," and suddenly felt uneasy. If they hadn't been following Dawn's SUV, she might have asked Freddie to pull over. She just needed to gather herself. Freddie echoed, "Oh no," which made Kathy nod in agreement. "Yeah, and I'm the one who suggested this plan to help Dawn find real dates. I don't know how I missed such a simple issue, but we're in it now. We could have avoided a lot of trouble if I had kept quiet about everything. We could have just had Dawn take us on some practice trips, and then Maria could have made one of those trips special. Maria is smart and kind enough to help Dawn without making him uneasy, and Dawn is thoughtful enough to be okay with her guiding him. I think I focused too much on Maria wanting things to be a certain way. But as it stands, we have to stick with this plan. I can't take back what I said about real outings without telling Dawn that Maria likes him, and she isn't ready for him to know that yet. It was a typical weekend at Maria's house, or at least it seemed that way. Everyone was nice to my kids, and we did our usual fun activities, but the women were acting a little strange around me. No one was rude, but their body language and how they spoke made me feel like I was part of some kind of experiment. Sometimes it felt like Maria was upset with me, and at other moments she seemed apologetic or sad. Vanessa looked both downcast, and if I didn't know better, I would think she was being shyly sweet. Freddie, who is usually playful, seemed nervous darting between Maria and Vanessa. She would sometimes stop to hug me, as if trying to make me feel better. Kathy was the only one who acted normally. She seemed frustrated most of the weekend. I almost thought about leaving because everything felt so confusing. But my 4 lovely friends were still great with my kids. So I just smiled and tried to make sense of it all. I was glad I had my Zantac with me. For the first time, I noticed my friends trying to talk to others on the slopes and at the lodge. Maria was always nearby, while Kathy was the most outgoing. Freddie tried a couple of times to meet new people, but then came back to hang out with Maria, my girls, and me. Vanessa was acting a bit strangely. She would start to talk to someone, glance back at us, and hurry back to our group, almost like she was unsure about joining in. As I came down the stairs on Sunday morning, I saw the end of a lively conversation between Freddie and Maria. The atmosphere at breakfast felt a little different. When I walked into the kitchen, I found Vanessa busy making breakfast. She had never done that for us before. The table was set, and the ingredients were ready by the stove. She must have woken up at least half an hour early. She was making omelets and asking everyone what they wanted in theirs. Megan was still half asleep, so Robin grinned as she figured out Megan's mumbling meant ham, Swiss cheese, and onions. When Vanessa was putting my food on the plate, she looked so focused that it was almost funny. But sometimes, even when you're trying hard, things can go wrong. The omelet split, and part of it dropped onto the floor. She looked upset and discouraged. I knew she wanted to do something nice for me after all the meals I had made for her, and it was frustrating when things didn't turn out well. I took a moment to comfort her, giving her a hug and telling her it was okay. It was a funny sight when I looked over Vanessa's shoulder and saw Maria looking surprised. When she noticed me, her expression softened, and she quickly stood to help clean up. It must have been a tough morning for her. Eventually, we all sat down at the table. Vanessa's and my omelets were the last ones served. The table was unusually quiet. We weren't teasing Megan about being sleepy like we usually did. Typically, we enjoyed joking around with her and hearing her witty replies. But that morning, Megan seemed more awake and involved. I wondered if she had been pretending to be sleepy on past weekends. I had checked with her before to make sure the teasing didn't bother her because we just wanted to have fun. But I understood that sometimes jokes could hurt feelings. I would never want to hurt my little girl or let anyone else hurt her. Still, she had told me before it was all in good fun, and she hinted that she liked the attention. I thought she was starting to see our new friends more like family. I wasn't sure how I felt about that. Finally, Vanessa spoke up to break the quiet. "Don, how do you like your omelet?" "Just fine, Vanessa. It's great." I took a big bite of the omelet to show I meant it. Truthfully, I didn't eat omelets much, but I knew you should never insult the cook. "I wanted to make at least one meal for you after all the times you've cooked for me. But I have a scheduling issue. I need to take care of some personal things. So if you don't mind, we'll have to skip our Thursday workouts together." Vanessa looked at me a little sadly. I had enjoyed our time together and liked having a workout partner, but I understood. "I completely get it, Vanessa. You've spent a lot of time helping me and put your own life on hold for it. I want you to know I really appreciate it. Thank you for everything you've done for me," I said with genuine appreciation. After my words, I noticed Maria, sitting next to me, let out a small sigh of relief. Freddie then chimed in. "Don't think you'll get Thursdays off, Don. Those evenings will now be our practice date nights. Vanessa told us about your outing last night while we were watching a movie. You really did well, and you should be proud. This Thursday, it's my turn to be your practice date. Are you ready for that?" Freddie said with a teasing smile. "I'm not sure. I need to check my plans. So kids, is Daddy ready for this blonde-haired friend?" I asked with a grin. Robin quickly replied, "Sure, but no funny faces on the first outing." Megan glanced at Maria first, then said, "If you promise to come home before midnight and be ready for the evening, you can go." "Thanks, Moms," I said, feeling grateful. "Freddie, my mom said I can go. What do you have in mind?" "We're going to the art museum for a special show of American art. For dinner, I want your salad with fried shrimp, fried squid, and the pie for dessert. I'll be at your house at 5:30 and we'll leave for the museum by 7. Got it. One special meal with no pork and some sea monkeys." I felt a wave of frustration thinking about Don's date. I wanted to shout, "He's mine!" I wished I could whisk him away to a peaceful place on a mountain, but my thoughts turned to my girls. How could I explain taking their father away from them? I knew this was my struggle, but I found it hard to control my feelings. I tried to stay near Don, but when things got too intense, I would take a brief moment to breathe. Vanessa's attitude toward Don made me uneasy. She no longer seemed to see him just as a friend. She was a good friend, someone I trusted, but when she looked at Don, I could sense a deeper interest. When she turned to me, her expression shifted to one of guilt. I cared for Vanessa like the sister I never had, just like Kathy and Freddie, but I had noticed Dawn first, and I hoped she would recognize that. Still, the conversation I needed to have with her this Saturday wouldn't be easy. That evening, I made dinner, trying to accommodate everyone. With Freddie being a vegetarian, I wanted everyone to enjoy the meal. Dawn had a way of making everyone feel happy, so I decided to make Dungeness crab again, which seemed to please everyone. For dessert, I prepared 2 blueberry cheesecakes from a recipe I had been perfecting for the past month and a half. My ex-husband, Richard, and his colleagues had been my taste testers and were starting to tire of them. Almost every Wednesday and Friday, I would bring a cheesecake to Richard's office during lunch. It became such a routine that his staff started to avoid me, but Richard was always kind. He tried each cheesecake and gave his thoughts on the flavors. The cheesecake was popular, everyone enjoyed it and had 2 pieces, even though they were already full from lunch. I noticed Don eyeing the leftovers. He might have held back because he was watching what he ate. That evening, dance lessons were tough for me. At first, Vanessa seemed stiff and awkward with Don, but she eventually started to relax and dance more smoothly. Ava was right to give them a VIP card. They really had great chemistry. My heart felt heavy, and I had a fluttery feeling in my stomach that made things hard. I remembered my modeling lessons. If the dress is too tight, smile. If the shoes hurt, smile. If you worry about losing your boyfriend, smile. I spotted a few mistakes that Don was making, so I took the chance to dance with him and show him the right steps. For the second time since I started teaching Don, I played the song Moon River, and we danced twice. We were good together. Not as good as he was with Vanessa, but we were still pretty good. We just needed more practice. From then on, I decided to dance with him every Wednesday. We had done it before, but we usually had to move furniture in his living room to find space, which sometimes discouraged us. However, I had seen his basement gym, and it was big enough for dancing. Besides, Don's basement was part of the entire apartment building, not just for him, and tenants could use it in special situations. It was something he arranged when he built the place. He had put in a nice wooden floor in both his gym and workshop because he didn't like walking on concrete. The floor was a bit worn, but I thought it would work for dancing if I cleaned it up. Plus, he had a sound system down there for music. When the lessons ended, Don went upstairs to unwind and watch TV, while the other girls and I headed to the movie room. It was time for my talk with Vanessa. While everyone settled in, I gently took Vanessa's hand and led her to my office. She looked upset but followed me willingly. After I closed and locked the door, I turned to her. Vanessa, you know I care about you like a sister. You're a good person. I also see that you had a special night with Don, and since then you've seemed a bit taken with him. I'm not mad at you. I feel envious and would like his affection too, but I'm not upset. Do you want to talk about how you're feeling? Vanessa broke down and started to cry. This wasn't meant to be my job, but I quickly went to comfort her, wrapping my arms around her and giving her soft words of support. Inside, my own heart was hurting, but I needed to be strong for both of us. We sat on the couch, and after a while she started to talk, although her words came with sniffles. Maria, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for things to go this way. I joked about liking Don because he is such a nice guy, but I would never have really gone after him knowing you liked him. It just happened without me noticing. I train with Don 4 times a week. I practice dance with him twice a week. We go skiing together often, and I often teach him when we are alone. We've spent so much time together that I formed a bond with him without even realizing it until that dinner at his house. It all started at dinner, not on the dance floor. Then we went to the club and it felt like a dream for me. I didn't want to hear this, but I had to. I've never felt as special as you do. Suddenly, in a room full of people, I felt like everyone was watching me, and it was amazing. Don made me feel like I could shine. I know Don has his flaws, but even with those, he is strong. When I danced with him, I felt like I was with someone real. We're trying to help him get better, but He already has many great qualities." My face must have shown how worried I was. "No, Maria, I'm not going after him. I promise I won't do anything as long as you're interested in him. I have feelings for him, but I doubt he feels the same way about me. I'm just his workout partner and trainer. I talked with Kathy and Freddie, and we agree that my issue might be I've been spending too much time with Dawn and not enough with other friends." I suddenly felt guilty. For 4 months, I had focused too much on my feelings for Dawn and not enough on my best friends. I realized I hadn't thought about their lives at all. I had been selfish, and I didn't deserve to be their friend. "Vanessa, I'm so sorry. I've been selfish. I've ignored all of you and your lives. You must be disappointed in me. I've been a bad friend. For all these months, it has been all about me. How can you forgive me? I made this messy situation because I didn't have the courage to be honest with Dawn about my past." Then I broke down, and Vanessa held me. There, Maria. It's okay. We still care about you. We understand. You're just in love, and your focus has been on him. You've been a good friend to us. When I was having a tough time, you were there for me, just like you were for Kathy and Freddie. We all face hard times, and we know how difficult things can be. Kathy married that guy, and I don't understand why she is drawn to bad boys. He wasted all her savings. Then you came in like a hero. Everything had fallen apart. When you saved me, I was about to move back in with my parents. Kathy was in a tough spot, and Freddie was thinking about her options. You helped me turn my passion for exercise into a business, helped Freddie pursue her love for art as a career, and you even supported Kathy's return to college. You brought back our confidence, and we can never really thank you enough. You have always been there for us, and now we want to support you. Kathy, Freddie, and I have come up with a plan. It's pretty simple, and we are not leaving you out. The 3 of us are going to start going on dates again, although Kathy has never fully stopped. I'm going to reduce my hours with Don and think we should change up his practice partners a bit. I know that might not be the best for his learning, but it feels necessary. Kathy thinks since we started this routine with Don, we should keep it going. Stopping suddenly could confuse him. We believe you should spend more time with him when you can. It's a good idea for Don to have a few more practice dates with each of us before you make your move. No real dates just yet. You likely already know this, but you will need to be patient and understanding with Don during your deeper talks. Very patient and supportive, or he might feel unsure, and you could miss your chance for a real connection. As for your past, knowing Don, I doubt there will be any problems, so I pulled back from her. Everything she said up to then had reassured me and made sense, but could Don, with his sheltered upbringing, accept my past? I thought it was impossible. When I tried to stand, Vanessa hugged me tightly. She rocked me and gently stroked my hair, whispering softly, "I understand. You're not ready to share everything with him, and you fear he will judge you. I believe you are making a mistake by letting fear guide you. If you were being brave, you would go to him, share your feelings, and spend time with him without holding back. We can look after Megan and Robin for you, but if you want to take your time and work through your fears, we will fully support you. We all care about you, Maria." This was not how I thought my talk with Vanessa would go. I expected an argument or thought I might have to comfort her. Never did I think I would need comforting instead. After a while, we settled down, fixed ourselves up, and rejoined everyone in the movie room. When Vanessa and I returned together, Kathy and Freddie visibly relaxed. Megan and Robin were looking at us with curiosity, as if they sensed something important had taken place. I thought we could all use a little treat, so I headed to the kitchen to get more cheesecake. When I arrived, I noticed a large piece was missing. Don must have taken a slice to his room. I felt pleased he liked it, but I wondered if I should tell Megan and Robin that he wasn't sticking to his diet. I would need to think on it. In the end, everyone enjoyed a small piece of cheesecake along with a medium-sized slice of cake that Don had brought. I wondered if it would become a fun topic of conversation, maybe even about the sound of cows mooing. The next morning, I woke up early to make breakfast. I wanted to show Don that I could be nice too. When I got to the kitchen, I found Vanessa busy cooking. She had her back to me and didn't see me come in. I felt puzzled since she had said she wasn't interested in Don. I planned to cook for him, so what was she doing? As I started to step into the kitchen, Freddie quickly pulled me back and put a finger to her lips, telling me to be quiet. I calmed down and stayed silent. She took my hand and led me to the living room away from the kitchen. "What's happening, Freddie?" I asked, feeling a bit surprised. "I thought you might be upset. Vanessa is saying goodbye to Don in her own way. She really likes him, Maria, but she knows you do too. She's never invited him over, never had a special date with him, and never cooked for him. This is her way of getting closure. It's a farewell breakfast. Just let her do this, okay?" Freddie looked so concerned that I began to think I might be overreacting. I took a few deep breaths to steady myself. "Of course it's fine. I just didn't expect this after what she said last night. Thank you for stopping me from making a scene. You and Vanessa are both important to me." I was so focused on my talk with Freddie that I almost didn't notice someone coming down the stairs who might have heard us. I turned to see it was Don, but he just said good morning and walked toward the kitchen, looking calm as usual. We narrowly avoided a tricky situation. At breakfast, when Vanessa accidentally dropped Don's omelet on the floor, I was surprised to see him quickly get up to comfort her. She was clearly upset, and he hugged her gently while speaking kindly to her, trying to make her feel better. After a moment, as my surprise faded, it became clear that Don was being a supportive friend to Vanessa. Even as she leaned closer to him for comfort, she held back her feelings. The omelet she had dropped felt like a goodbye to Don, so I understood why she was so distressed. I would never tell her that Megan and Robin had mentioned to me that Don didn't like omelets, and I promised them to keep it a secret. At breakfast, Vanessa told Don about their new workout schedule, and Freddie shared the updated practice dates. I rode home with Don and the girls again, but we were starting to get bored of playing Yahtzee. We needed to find a new game. Fortunately, Don's apartment was a nice and safe place for us to meet and carpool before heading to my mountain home. It made sense for me to travel with him and my girls, as I could just say it was because I liked being with Megan and Robin. While we were in the car, I talked about my idea for dance lessons in his gym. Don agreed there was enough space but worried that the floor wouldn't be good for dancing. When I got to Don's apartment, I quickly checked the gym floor, and he was right. It was a basic plywood floor that had been stained and sealed. There were some large rubber mats around the exercise equipment, but that was about it. I decided to take charge. When I went back upstairs, I spoke with him. "Don, you were right about the floor, but when I was a kid taking dance lessons, I often had to use floors that weren't perfect. I know a few tricks to make a floor better. If you don't mind, I'd like to come by early on Wednesday to make some changes. It won't take too long." "Well, if you tell me what to do, maybe I can help you, Maria?" he suggested. "No, honestly, it will be easier if I do it myself." "How big of an area can I set aside for the dance floor? I'd like a 20 by 20 area, or maybe even a 24 by 24. Where should I put it?" "We have plenty of space. 24 by 24 is fine if that's what you want. Just set it up in the northeast corner of the gym and I'll move some equipment out of the way." "That's perfect, Don, thank you." "Why are you thanking me? You're teaching me and now you're going to help with my floor? I should be and I am thanking you." With that complete, I gave Megan a little wink to let her know it was time for her to step in. "Dad, while we were at Maria's, we made sure to finish all our homework, with my, Freddie's, Kathy's, and Vanessa's help during breaks in our Saturday movie night. We thought that maybe, if it's okay with you, and if Maria wants to, we could have a mini-movie night here, just the four of us." "Sweetheart, Maria is a wonderful friend to our family. She can stay any night she wishes. You just have to ask her. But you mentioned the four of us, and I'm not really into the kind of movies you like." "Oh, that's the best part, Daddy. We were discussing it, and Maria really likes Alfred Hitchcock films, and Robin and I like them too. We could start with North by Northwest, and maybe watch one or two more movies after that, if that sounds good." When Megan mentioned the movie, Don perked up like he was ready for action. I had told her I wanted to get closer to her father, and she was eager to help. I loved Hitchcock films, and she had said that North by Northwest was her dad's favorite. I promised myself that our practice outings would keep going. Every time Don turned around, I would be there. Soon, in a month or two at most, I would make my move. "Yeah, it sounds fun to watch Hitchcock together. What do you think, Maria?" This was getting better. He really asked me. Next month would be great, and tomorrow I would work on my goal. "Oh, Don, that would be great. What's for dinner?" "Wait, where did that come from?" I was becoming too fond of his amazing cooking. Don looked a bit awkward. Nothing fancy, just some grilled cheese sandwiches, French fries, and tomato soup for dinner. Something quick and easy. Maybe blueberry cobbler and ice cream for dessert. It won't be as good as your cheesecake, of course. Is that all right? I could go for his homemade French fries and sandwiches. He said my cheesecake was better than his cobbler, too. It got even better when Robin agreed with her dad. Yeah, Maria, your cheesecake was delicious. We think it's the best we've ever had. It's as good as the cake, and maybe even as good as the pie. Then Megan chimed in. It was the best. Daddy even had an extra piece. Don looked a bit down, like a guilty child. I wanted to move closer to him, pat him on the back, and tell him everything was fine. I think we need to vote, but I believe your cheesecake should now just be called the cheesecake. I could hear a chorus of cows mooing like a stampede. Moria! 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 It felt like a celebration. Suddenly I noticed Don's voice and he was shaking my shoulders. Moria, Maria, are you okay? My eyes focused on him. You looked lost for a second. I felt embarrassed. I got so excited about Megan's shout-out for my cheesecake that I lost track. Oh, well, we took a vote and it didn't go your way, 2-1. Sorry, Maria. I was disappointed. My hopes dashed, when suddenly Megan and Robin both said, Daddy, you big fibber. We all voted yes. I looked at Don as he started to back away with a big smile. I was determined to change his mind. I started to think of a playful comeback when Robin handed me a silly doorstop shaped like a big stuffed chicken. I was unsure if it would really work until Robin said, There's a brick in the bottom of it. I took it happily from her, and Don's smile faded as he started to run away. Megan shouted, Be gentle, we need him for dinner. I joked back, Don't worry, we always make a meal from what we catch. The chicken was a little tricky to handle, but I managed to give him a couple of soft taps before he wriggled free and ran outside. Megan and Robin followed, cheering for me. But I had to stop because I was too tired and I was getting hungry. When the chicken came back, he acted timid for the rest of the night, but I kept him nearby just in case he grew too bold. Don cooked another great meal, and even though he pretended he was hurt from my playful taps, I told him they were just for fun. After dinner, he quickly made a dessert and put it in the oven. While he worked, the girls and I changed into our pajamas, and I actually wore a nightgown under my robe. It was simple but pretty, and it showed a little leg just a bit. My fuzzy bunny slippers kind of ruined the look, but they were really cozy. Megan and Robin were envious of my robe, so I decided to get them each one the next time I took them shopping. Don finally came out of the kitchen, put the movie in, and settled into his chair to watch. I cleared my throat. He looked up, confused. What's wrong? Robin chimed in. Daddy, you need to be in your pajamas. It's a tradition. But I don't want to. I caught Don's eye and started to stroke the chicken on my lap. Just give me a moment. I'll be right back, he said quickly. I think I'll name the chicken Roscoe. We discussed how to sit on the couch. We decided I would sit on one end, Megan on my left, then Robin, and Don would be at the other end. Robin remembered how warm Don got sitting in the middle at Christmas. When Don returned, he tried to sit in his chair again. Robin pointed to the couch beside her before he even realized what was happening. I just watched him, stroking Roscoe, and he quickly moved to his spot. Yes, you are Roscoe. You are a good little chicken, aren't you? As we promised Don, we watched North by Northwest first. I had noticed how he liked to rest his arm on the back of the couch. Predicting this, I did it first. He was uncomfortable for a long time, keeping his right arm in his lap while my left touched the back of the girls' heads. He noticed there was a good gap between my arm and the wall, just enough for his arm to fit. Feeling relieved, he rested his arm on the back of the couch. Dudley Dorite had walked right into my clever plan again. Sometimes I wish I could twirl a big mustache like in the cartoons. I wonder if Don likes people with mustaches. During the first movie, aside from when Don served dessert, my arm stayed where it was, and Don kept his arm in the same spot, believing he had enough room. Then, about 15 minutes into the second movie, I moved my arm slightly and brushed against Don's arm. There was a framed picture above the TV, and the glass acted like a mirror. I watched as Don froze and took a deep breath. I gently nudged my arm a bit closer to his. careful not to startle him, but enough for him to notice. He remained tense for the rest of the movie, and I thought he looked a little warm, too. Maybe I had pushed things too far for one evening, or maybe he was just tired, but when we started the third movie, he announced it was getting late. He suggested we move to my room to continue watching, so my friends and I did just that. Megan fell asleep first, then I did as well. I didn't see when Robin dozed off. She might have watched the whole movie for all I know. The next morning was the usual routine: wake up Megan, eat breakfast, and drop my girls off at school. I had been doing this every Thursday morning for months, and now I had added Mondays to the mix. Little did Don know, thanks to Megan and Robin, this would soon become a regular thing. Some of their friends waved to me, and it felt nice to be recognized. After I dropped my girls off, I called Carl about the dance floor I needed. "Where are you, Maria?" "I'm on my way back to my place. If you want a dance floor by Wednesday night, you need to turn around." Carl always told me the truth, so I did as he said. "Why should I turn around, Carl?" "The wood flooring needs to adjust to the room for at least 2 days before it's installed, and it has to be in the same environment. That means the same temperature and humidity. You need to get the flooring today and have it delivered immediately." Carl then asked me for the nearest big home supply store to Don's apartment. I mentioned the one I pass every time I drive there, and he told me to go pick out a wood or laminate flooring material I liked. He said that glueless laminate would be the easiest to put down, and he would send people to help me get the flooring and deliver it to Don's apartment. I did what Carl asked. I went to the store, picked the flooring I liked that was in stock, and paid around $1,000 for everything I needed. Right after I finished buying it, 2 young men came up. They introduced themselves as Mike and Matt, Carl's nephews. Mike had an old van. They loaded the flooring and followed me to Don's apartment. I let them in, found a spot to keep the flooring in the big basement, and they unloaded it. 2 hours after Carl told me to turn around, we were done. On Wednesday morning, we were all waiting for Don to leave for work. Carl came down from the mountains with a friend, and his nephews were with us too. When Don drove off, we quickly got to work. Carl was pleased because Don had done a great job preparing the floor for us. Carl pointed out that Don had made the plywood floor completely level and had sanded and cleaned it well. "I tell you, Maria, this will be easy. We are not putting the floor in the whole room, just one corner. That means we can make your dance floor any size without a lot of cutting. We can just put the cushion down and start fitting it together. You should go upstairs and rest. It will get a bit dusty down here when we start cutting." "Well, Carl, Don has his workshop here too. I'm sure he won't mind you using it, especially since he borrowed your tools without asking at my place." I showed Carl to Don's workshop, and his face lit up when he saw it. I knew there was something good about that boy, even if he can't dance. This will be a simple task. It will take us all day to do it right, but it will be manageable. I went upstairs to stay out of their way, and around lunchtime I brought them some food. By the time Megan and Robin got home from school at 3:30, they were almost finished. By 4, the floor was installed and nicely finished. Carl had used wide trim boards on the edges of the dance floor to make it safer. The floor measured about 23 feet by 25. By 4:30, they were ready to go home. I paid each of them $400. Maybe I could have spent less, but I really valued their work and wanted to help. Carl opened the back of his truck, pulled out a cooler, and took out a 6-pack he had made. "Make sure to share this with Don. Tell him that if he practices hard on dancing, next time I might let him take the lead." He smiled and drove off. After they left, I rushed inside to prepare dinner. I wanted everything ready for when Don got home so we could eat before my girls' therapy session. That way, Don wouldn't have to cook late, and he could relax after our dance lesson. I returned home feeling tired, with a lot still to do. I needed to get our snack ready before therapy. I felt a bit lazy, so I chose shrimp cocktail, even though the shrimp wasn't fresh. For dinner, it would be hamburgers again. I can cook a few meals well, but my choices are limited. To keep my friends happy, I started looking at cookbooks and finding recipes online, even though cooking isn't my favorite thing. My friends are easy to please, but I know they appreciate the food I make. I'm getting a little tired of it. If one of them liked me more, I might keep trying harder. But then I thought, Don, stop complaining. You, Megan, and Robin are better off now than you were 5 months ago. If you need to go to cooking school to keep good things happening, just do it. It's worth it. Maybe you just need a break from work. You don't really need it. I took some deep breaths to calm myself, then opened the front door. Wonderful smells filled the air. Before stepping inside, I looked down at the floor. Maria still hadn't returned that chicken. She was keeping it by her bed and had even named it. I wondered if she needed permission to have it. Maybe I could suggest a class on taking care of chickens. With those thoughts and the tasty aroma, I smiled and walked into my house. "Hello, I'm home. What smells so good?" Maria came out of the kitchen wearing a cute apron. "Welcome home, Don. I thought making dinner before we leave would give us more time to relax this evening. I made spinach salad, stuffed pork chops, mashed potatoes, snow peas, and fried mushrooms. I know you love mushrooms. I even got cheesecake for dessert. How does that sound?" I closed my eyes for a moment to hold back tears as a wave of emotion washed over me. It was a nice gesture, but I reminded myself that she was just a great friend. I thought maybe she had a lot of care to give and felt connected to us because of my daughters, and that was okay too. "Don, are you okay?" Maria asked, noticing my silence. I didn't want to open my eyes because they were wet, but I had to. "I'm fine, Maria. It's just really nice to come home to a wonderful meal when I'm tired. I really appreciate it. Thank you." She looked at me with curiosity and then went back to the kitchen. I hurried to the bathroom to wash my face and get myself together. After a few minutes, I returned to the dining room. The food was already on the table, and everyone else was seated. I apologized for being slow and sat down. The spinach salad was delicious, and it had plenty of bacon. The pork chops were delicious. Instead of the usual stuffing, there was a mix of cheese, bacon, and onions inside. It felt nice to be served, especially by a friend who was doing well in life. I complimented Maria on the meal, and she seemed really happy about it. Megan and Robin were not as excited in their praise, but they enjoyed it too. Maybe it was not cheesy or greasy enough for their taste. It was about time they had a healthier meal. My usual choices like hamburgers, French fries, grilled cheese sandwiches, fried chicken wings, and lasagna with extra sausage and cheese were not the best for a diet. I was glad we hadn't had any health issues yet. We made a plan to save the cheesecake for later. After our visit to the therapist, Maria took us to the gym to practice dancing. On the way, she asked me an interesting question. "Don, do you remember when that tree fell on my house and you asked to help clean up?" I cautiously replied, "Yes." What had I done this time? Sunday night, I mentioned I would fix things up a bit, and it wouldn't take much effort. I want you to remember that, and your words about the tree. Feeling a bit worried, I followed Maria into the gym. In the corner, instead of the old plywood flooring, there was now a beautiful hardwood floor with a sign on the wall that read, "Maria's Dance Studio, Lessons by Appointment Only." Maria quietly mentioned something about Carl. It seemed the sign surprised her. The floor must have cost over $3,000 since it was done quickly. I looked at Maria, and she met my gaze directly. "Don, I don't like to bring it up often, but I have quite a bit of money. I sometimes spend more on clothes in a week than I did on this floor. You would be surprised by the prices I pay for my purses. When I came down here the other night and saw how your old floor looked, I thought, why wait?" I called Carl. He advised me on what to buy, and he arranged for the work. It wasn't too expensive, and now we have a nice space to practice, okay? Since Carl was in charge of this project, Maria likely didn't get taken advantage of, and she was right, she was quite wealthy. For her, time spent with my girls and helping me improve was more valuable than money. She wanted a nice place to dance. I could accept that. It made sense considering everything. What she did was more for her enjoyment than just for me. And as for not asking for my permission, I figured it was her way of getting back at me for the tree. I gave her a look. "Are we even now?" "Yes, we're even, Don. Let's shake on it." I offered my hand. "Do people really do that? Yuck." She recoiled a bit. I couldn't help but smile, enjoying the playful moment. I walked into the basement bathroom to wash my hands. When I came back, it felt like just a couple of minutes had passed, but she was holding that chicken again. She gave me a serious look, her eyebrows lowered. With the chicken nearby, we danced for about an hour and a half. When we stopped, they wanted me to watch another movie, but I was too tired. So I went to bed while they took the DVD to Maria's room. The next morning, we followed our usual routine. Maria looked at me with curiosity when I mentioned my practice date with Freddie that evening. That evening, I got home to find Freddie waiting for me with a small grocery bag. "Hey, Don, how's it going?" Same old, Freddie. What's in the bag?" "Your cooking is good, Don, but I thought it could use a little more flavor. This is something I can add to the lettuce to make it better." I felt a bit uneasy about what those spices might be, and Freddie just smiled. I gave her the usual tour of the house. She wanted to see the guest room and insisted on visiting my workshop. Kevin was down there, and she chatted with him for a few minutes before we went back upstairs for dinner. I cooked shrimp, squid, garlic, and onions while Freddie chopped jalapeno peppers and made her lettuce sauce. We had everything ready in half an hour and sat down to eat. "Freddie, I'm really impressed by everything you do at your studio. You paint landscapes and also do tattoos and body painting. How did you get into all of this?" "Well, when I was in high school, besides skiing, I was already painting and thought I'd make a career out of it. Then a modeling scout saw me at a ski lodge. I started modeling to promote ski clothes, which led to more opportunities. I got sidetracked by money. Near the end of my modeling career, I met my ex-husband, Kevin. It turned out to be a big mistake. I had saved over $200,000 through hard work. My lawyer, a woman, assured me that my prenup would protect us both. Unfortunately, I was only married to him for 2 years, and by the end, I lost everything. He cheated on me and took all my money. His lawyer claimed I spent it all, but that's not true. I live simply. Kevin was into real estate and took my savings for his business, and then he disappeared. My lawyer didn't really help much afterward and seemed to vanish. I still feel frustrated when I think about it. I'm sorry to bring up such a tough memory, Freddie. I can relate to that. She reached across the table and took my hand. I know you can. That's why I can open up to you. But one day I plan to find Kevin again, and when you do, if you need support, I'll be there. We've got a whole ocean if we need to get rid of something. I smiled at her to show I was joking. She smiled back, but it felt a bit strange. I was nearly out of money. I had my car and about $1,000 to my name. The only thing I was good at was modeling, but it didn't seem to be enough anymore. Maybe I should have gone back to my parents, but I didn't want to feel like a disappointment, especially since they had warned me about Kevin. It was summer, and there were no jobs for ski instructors, which also didn't pay much anyway. I needed to find a new path. Maria had been away, but somehow she heard about my problems and quickly came back to help me. She offered me a place to stay and listened to how I felt. Then she helped me think of new job ideas. What I really wanted to do was be a painter, but I didn't believe in my talent. Over the years, I had liked painting on my friends' bodies and even doing a few small tattoos by hand. Working on someone felt like creating art on a living canvas. I had heard that skilled tattoo artists could earn a good living. I believed I could do that, even though it wouldn't be easy. Maria helped me put together a portfolio, and I started visiting tattoo artists on the West Coast. My training lasted about 2 years, which was quick, and I learned a lot from the artist I worked with. When I returned to Seattle, I planned to open my own shop. During this time, Maria supported me fully, and I'm still trying to show my gratitude, but she insists it was a birthday gift. I opened a studio, and with the support of my friends, I found success. It also helped that my sister was creative. She developed special paint for body art. Some people aren't sure about getting a real tattoo, while others prefer not to get one at all. My sister's paints are beautiful and can be easily removed with care. While I'm not certain they are FDA approved, she assures me they're safe, and I haven't had any issues. I've had enough success to return to my love for painting. Don, I like talking to you, but let's eat first, and then I'll share more at the museum. We had dinner, and the strong smell from Freddie's spicy sauce made my eyes water. After dessert, Freddie wanted to take the leftover pie home with her. When we headed out to the car, I pulled my keys from my pocket, and Freddie said, "Don, Vanessa mentioned you don't like to drive. Let's take my car." "Freddie, I don't mind driving. Plus, your van looks like it's about to break down." I was also a bit nervous about her driving. She had a reputation for being a bit reckless. "I meant my car, not the van. Let's take my new car." I always loved the idea of trying out a new car. "What new car?" She pointed to a sleek new BMW station wagon. I needed to find something big enough to carry my artwork safely. I also wanted something that was easy to handle and had good power. This is what I found. Freddie, have you ever had a car accident? Your friends have told some wild stories about your driving. Don, I've never had an accident, I promise. She raised her hand playfully to show she was serious. Then I got into the car, and she took the driver's seat. Just a few minutes later, I had my eyes closed tight, wishing to see my loved ones again before we arrived safely. In no time, we reached the museum. I slowly relaxed my grip on the armrests and looked at Freddie. She had a big smile, and I knew she was going to tease me about being nervous. I raised a warning finger as she started to speak. Be careful, or you might never get the pie again. She quickly closed her mouth. We got out of the car and showed our tickets to enter the museum. As we looked at different pieces of American art, Freddie continued her story. I started taking more art classes soon after I got back to Seattle, but I didn't start selling anything until 2 years ago. I had some success, and about a year later, a local gallery showed my artwork alongside 2 other local artists. The gallery owner, Madeline, was very excited about our paintings. We all thought we might move from being struggling artists to we-can-pay-our-bills artists. I was already covering my expenses with my tattoo business, but Ben and Alice really needed the extra money. Everything was going well until a local art critic named Thomas Harris showed up. He's from England and writes for local and national newspapers and magazines. He also gives advice about art purchases. The name Thomas Harris sounded familiar. I have never liked anyone named Tom. I've had bad experiences with some people named Tom, including my old boss. When I get home, I need to look up Mr. Thomas Harris online and check my files. There was a Tommy Harris mentioned in my detective report about Barbara. If it turns out he is the same person, I already know he's not trustworthy, and I need to keep an eye on him to make sure he doesn't cause problems for Freddie. So he walked into the gallery, and Madeline said, "Oh, no!" She thought he was out of the country. He often travels to the Far East. That mention of the Far East brought back some uneasy memories for me. He started talking to people looking at our work, sharing his thoughts, and suddenly, they all began to leave. We didn't sell a single painting that night. I was pretty sure that before Harris arrived, we would have made at least a dozen sales because of how the crowd was acting. What could have been a great night for us quickly turned into a disappointment because of his interruptions. Maybe my work wasn't as good, but Ben's and Alice's pieces were really amazing. I would have bought their paintings if I didn't already have my walls filled with my own. In the month that followed, the 3 of us got offers for our paintings, but they were all disappointingly low. Ben and Alice had to sell because they needed the money. I sold my paintings because they were taking up too much space in my storeroom, and I couldn't keep giving more to Maria and Vanessa. Kathy lives in a small apartment and doesn't have much room either. I had seen Freddie's artwork at Maria's condo and at Freddie's studio. I thought it was fantastic and should be worth a lot of money. I even planned to buy some of it once I finished the website I was working on for her. It was supposed to be a surprise, but I was already creating Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and Russian versions of her website, with plans to add more languages later. My idea was to buy some of her artwork through the website so she wouldn't feel the need to give me a discount. Her paintings were beautiful, and I wanted her to get full credit for them. I was working with Sadison in Japan for the Japanese, Korean, and Chinese websites. He was a hard-working person and provided his services at a fair price. I was impressed with our email exchanges. He wasn't just translating the text, but also redesigning the website to suit different cultures. He was even looking into how galleries in Japan display paintings to make Freddie's artwork more appealing. A few days ago, he sent me a worrying email about Freddie's work. He said he would keep looking into it and update me. In the email, he mentioned seeing several American artworks in one gallery. 3 of the paintings were Freddie's, and the gallery was asking for over 2 million yen for the least expensive one, which is around $25,000. That's over 10 times what Freddie's paintings are sold for here. I believe the higher price in Japan shows a better value for Freddie's artwork than the local prices. Satosan recognized them because I had included images of her older, sold paintings alongside the ones available on Freddie's English website. He even confirmed they were Freddie's by checking the artist's signature. If he emails me with any more concerning information, I will ask him to find a private investigator in Tokyo to look into it further. Then I will find someone to investigate things on this side of the Pacific. The part that surprised me the most when Freddie talked about his past was the name of the place where Satosan saw Freddie's paintings. It was called the Harris Art Gallery. I didn't want to tell Freddie just yet because I didn't want to upset her, but I wanted to keep my friends safe. Madeline was really angry with Harris and told him not to come into her gallery anymore. On April 11th, the four of us are going to try again. Madeline is having another showing of our artwork. She has invited new guests and made sure to compliment our paintings to those she thought would appreciate them at our last show. Freddie, can I come to your showing? Of course, Don. I'll make sure you get an invitation. We enjoyed a quiet evening looking at the art, but I struggled to stay calm after realizing my worries about Harris. Then Freddie drove me home. I feel too young to have gray hair. The weekend at Maria's mountain home was the same as always. Exercising, skiing, dancing, and enjoying good food, with one exception. Late Saturday night, when everyone else was watching movies, Megan came to my room alone and said she wanted to talk. Dad, I need to tell you something important. Honey, I always pay attention when you want to talk, whether it's serious or not. I've noticed how Maria and Vanessa act around you, and I think they really like you. Robin and I like them both, and we really like Maria. Maybe you should ask her out. Sweetie, I shouldn't tell you this, but since you're being serious, I will too. I would love it if Maria or one of her friends liked me in that way, but I doubt it. Daddy, I think you're mistaken. I bet that Maria really likes you. Why don't you just give it a try? My dear, Maria and her friends are wonderful, smart, and lovely women. Any guy would feel lucky to be with them. But I don't think I'm that lucky. They aren't helping me because they like me. They're just good friends who want me to find someone to date. The key part is someone else. They don't want me for themselves. Do you see? I'm also worried that if I pursue Maria and it doesn't go well, we might lose the closeness we have with her. I don't want to take that risk, especially since I don't think she sees me as someone to date. I really appreciate you coming to talk to me about this, but it's a little upsetting, and if you don't mind, I'd rather not discuss it anymore. Okay, Daddy, I won't mention it again, but I still think you're making a mistake. I love you, Daddy, and so does Robin, so you'll always have us. Good night, Daddy. She gave me a big hug and then turned to leave my room. Good night, Princess. Enjoy your movie night. I love you too. On the Monday after we got back from the mountains, I asked Maria if she had some extra time that morning since I had taken the whole morning off. I needed a new suit and wanted her advice. She seemed happy to help. After I dropped off my girls, Maria drove me to a store she knew. Maria, I need to look my best, and I'm ready to spend some money on it. Don't worry, Don. I know just the place. She took me to a Brooks Brothers store. I had hoped she might know a special little tailor shop. I ended up buying 2 suits, one navy and one gray, for about $1,500. Maria was very helpful, but during the fitting, she seemed a bit too relaxed. The suits would be ready in about a week, and I needed them before Freddie's art gallery showing on the 11th. I thanked Maria for her help when she dropped me back at my apartment, and she seemed unusually happy for the rest of that morning. I feel like I am getting closer to Don, but there's an emotional wall that I didn't notice before. I think it has to do with his past. When I lightly touch him or we dance together, he blushes a little and seems to hold his breath. This shows me that I'm making some progress, at least. Sometimes, though, he acts like he feels trapped. At least the date he had with Freddie was just friendly, though Freddie told me this weekend that she found him very distracting. Now, he has another outing planned with Vanessa. On Monday morning, Don asked me to go shopping with him for a suit. That's what he should be doing, asking for my opinion on clothes. I had fun during the fitting, adjusting the clothes and asking if they were too tight or too loose. The best part was that he bought exactly what I suggested. Next Saturday, we are all getting together for Freddie's showing. On Thursday evening, Vanessa and I met for our practice date. The only difference from our last date was that I grilled ribeye steaks for dinner. At the dance club, Eva came by often. At one point, she asked me what I did for work, and I told her that I was a maintenance man at an apartment complex. She seemed surprised for a moment, and Vanessa found it really funny. But by the end of the evening, Eva returned to our table, smiling and chatting happily. When Vanessa got up to use the restroom, Eva asked for my phone number, and I hesitantly gave her my cell number. I should have felt happy, but something about her made me a little uneasy. In return, she gave me a card with her home number and email address, holding my hand for a moment. Vanessa came back quickly, and I felt relieved. I decided not to mention my conversation with Eva. Another lovely weekend at my mountain cabin was here. This time I told Don he should not help in the kitchen at all. He could bring up the desserts he had already made, but after that he was to stay away. Lucille's leg was better, and she came by to help. I paid her for her time, but she is still a good friend. Carl joined us for meals as well. He brought his homemade drinks, which Don enjoys. Carl talked about teaching Don how to hunt. We even convinced Lucille to stay for our Saturday night movies. She enjoyed a piece of pie, then asked for 2 more slices. I think she is thinking about changing something in her life. On Thursday night, I didn't have plans, so I called Barbara. "Hi, Barbara. It's Don. Do you have a moment to talk?" Even though we don't always see eye to eye, we try to be polite for the sake of our 2 daughters. "Of course, Don. I'm always here for you." "Barbara, I would like you to keep Megan and Robin with you on Friday and Saturday, maybe the whole weekend. Is that okay?" "I would love to have the girls. We could go on a little trip if you want. But why? You know they will be sad. One of my friends is going through a tough time, and I want to help him. I don't expect any issues, but since money is involved, I want to be careful. For the next couple of weeks, let's be especially watchful with our girls. I don't think there will be any real danger, but I want to make sure that if anything happens, it's on me and not anyone else. Will you be safe?" "I'm sure I will be. I might just be worrying too much, but I prefer to be cautious." After we talked more, she felt better and started planning for the weekend. I then called Megan on her cell phone and spoke with both her and Robin. They were tougher to convince since they wanted to be a part of everything, but I was determined to keep them safe. Eventually, they agreed. I made them promise not to contact Maria or any of our new friends about this to keep them safe too. On Friday, I took the whole day off and went to the Seattle Police Department. They contacted the FBI since it involved some activity in Japan as well. The local district attorney came too. They were excited about the evidence I had gathered with the 2 private detectives I hired. I got the feeling they were eager for some good news for themselves, though I wasn't even sure if a real crime had occurred. I felt confident I had enough proof for a civil lawsuit. The law enforcement officers who had gathered started talking about false pretenses and conspiracy to defraud. After spending the day with them, the Seattle police decided to keep an eye on all of Mr. Harris's phones, and I would be wearing a listening device on Saturday night. On Saturday afternoon, as I got dressed in my new Navy suit at my apartment, the Seattle detectives helped me set everything up. With the suit on and the device in place, I felt more confident, almost like a character from a classic spy movie. I found myself thinking about Maria in a heroic light, although I knew it was just my imagination. Lately, she had been a bit friendlier toward me, but I kept my hopes in check. Later that afternoon, my friends arrived at my apartment to go to Freddie's showing. I had made sure to get the Japanese investigator's report translated by Satosan and had another report from a local private investigator. She mentioned that it was a nice change from her usual domestic work. I placed both reports in a new leather document case to look more professional. It was important to keep up appearances. Now I just needed to figure out my next steps, and I teased myself with the thought that I might have a few surprises for my friends that evening. When they arrived, everyone got out of their cars and chatted in the parking lot, waiting for Maria to drive us to the showing. Maria came over and asked, "Are you ready to go, Don?" "Oh, dear friends, there must be a change of plans." Freddie quickly understood and asked excitedly, "He's up to something. What's in the case, Don?" "Freddie, listen closely. Mr. Harris is not what he seems. Along with his questionable reputation, he has a past that links him to my ex-wife. I have plans for him, and I want to make sure you all stay safe from the fallout." I felt protective of Freddie. If I could bring attention to Harris's past, it might keep him away from causing trouble. "You mentioned that he has threatened to make things difficult for Madeline if she doesn't let him come tonight. I think I have a way to handle that. The only problem is, if it looks like we know each other, he might try to ruin your success out of jealousy. There is no way that guy can harm me, so you all need to act like you don't know me no matter what happens. Just enjoy the show. Freddie, I promise this will not affect your performance, and I think it will actually help both your careers and your friends, too. Please trust me, okay? If I'm wrong, I will owe you big time." This last comment surprised Maria. After talking back and forth, Freddie and the others finally agreed to my plan. We drove to the gallery in separate cars to avoid arriving at the same time. When I got to the gallery, I made sure to find Madeline and told her firmly that I was there to make a purchase that evening. The artwork had prices between $1,500 and $5,000, similar to the last exhibit that Harris had impacted. I waited patiently, sipping wine and wishing I had brought another drink. Mr. Harris needed to arrive for things to get started. At 7:30, my competitor came in. When you're a spy, you must use the right language, right? As I thought, he quickly walked through the gallery, looking at the pieces, then started to criticize the best ones. If he could ruin the top works, no one would care about the lesser pieces. Harris talked to a group in front of the best painting. In my view, that painting was the best in the show, created by Freddie. It showed a ship at dawn navigating a stormy sea, and it looked like it had been struggling through the night, but was still afloat. I wanted to buy it, and getting it would certainly bother Harris. Harris began, "The artist tried, but didn't really." I quickly spoke over him. "Madeline, is this painting really $5,000? If so, I want to buy it right now. Please put a sold label on it." "Yes, Donald, it's $5,000. Quite a deal, isn't it? I've got a label right here." Harris looked unhappy and said, "That man is making a big mistake," before moving on to the next painting. There was a man a bit older than me who also looked upset, and it seemed his friend was too. Well, if you hesitate, you miss out. I followed Harris to the next artwork. "The colors here are so—" "Madeline, is that painting really $4,500? "Yes, Donald. You see, while he is a brilliant artist, he is not well known yet. Until his reputation grows, his artwork will be quite a bargain." "I want it too. Please put another label on it for me." I smiled at Madeline and turned to give Harris a fierce look. It seemed to bother him, and he hurried away to the next painting. He didn't seem to have many people with him this time. But many folks were gathering around me to see what I would do next. I purposely avoided looking at my friends, but I caught a quick glance at Freddie. Her face was pale, and it took both Vanessa and Kathy to support her, while they wore broad smiles. Maria looked at me with disapproval, as if I were doing something wrong. But this was just the start. The next painting was by Freddie. I had hoped it would be from Alice instead. I liked this piece, but I really wanted to buy something from all three artists tonight. We went through the usual process, and I got the painting for $4,200. By now, I had finally pushed Harris enough that he spoke out in frustration. I secretly hoped he would confront me. I wanted to defend myself strongly. "What do you think you are doing?" he asked angrily. "Well, I'm doing the same thing you do repeatedly. I'm buying a beautiful piece of art and making a good profit from it. Your trick is to come here as a big-name critic, putting down these great artworks. Your reputation is strong enough that even when people like the paintings, they hesitate to buy them, fearing they will look foolish. As a result, the paintings don't sell, and the artists who need money are forced to lower their prices. Then you send your people in to buy the artwork for only a few $100s when they should be worth tens of thousands. You then send the art to your sister Olivia in Japan, where she sells it for a better price. For instance, Miss Freddie Hansen's painting of a ship in a storm, which you bought cheaply, sold for around $35,000 last year. It's surprising that your sister acts as these artists' representative in Japan. Do you have any questions about that?" "You can't prove any of this," he shouted. "Oh, but I can. Madeline, Miss Hansen, Miss Simons, and Mr. Rath, could you come here? I have copies of 2 reports for you. One is from a private detective in Japan, and the other is from one I hired locally. I believe you have grounds for a civil case against Mr. Harris. Madeline, I also have copies of the report in plastic protectors. You might want to show these to your guests so they can see if my claims are valid. You may be hesitant to do this now for legal reasons, but I've already shared these reports on my website. I also have business cards with the link. Just let me know if you want one." "Why are you doing this?" he asked, confused. "My name is Don Hendricks, which may not mean much to you, but I am one of many affected by your actions. 4 years ago, you became very close to my wife over 2 months, which hurt our marriage. She is now my ex-wife because of you. Getting even can be serious, Mr. Harris. A hush fell over the crowd as I faced him. Harris turned pale and hurried out of the gallery. I felt a little let down. I had hoped he would challenge me or something similar. What a trickster. Madeline turned to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests of my gallery, due to this news, and until I can find out what is really happening, we will not be selling any artwork tonight. These dedicated artists deserve to benefit from their hard work. It seems the value of their pieces has been affected. I need time to reassess the prices. I apologize if you were looking forward to buying something. For your information, Mr. Harris's actions last year hurt Alice's and Ben's financial security. In possibly 2 weeks, I may have another showing of their art or look into selling some pieces overseas, depending on how the local market reacts. Thank you for your understanding. That was clever of her. A gentle warning. Support the artists, or risk seeing their artwork sold elsewhere. The event continued for 2 more hours, and nearly everyone there asked me for my business card. During the night, the wife of a man with blonde hair came to me, asking if I would sell Freddie's painting of the Windjammer to her. Her husband looked upset by my comments. I simply shook my head. I don't usually buy pieces just because they look nice, but when I do, I keep them close. I was very happy with the 3 paintings I had gotten and wished that Harris had not left after just 3 sales. There was one more of Freddie's that I really liked, and one of Alice's that also caught my eye. I was at the door as the gallery was closing for the night. I needed to stay to pick up my paintings. Freddie looked eager to talk to me, but her friends held her back. I noticed the intensity in her look as she waited. Just before they left, I overheard the blonde-haired man arguing with his wife, who was looking down. Last year, I wanted so much to buy that clipper ship painting, but you wanted me to wait for Harris's opinion. You even dismissed me and called me immature. You heard what that Hendricks man said. That painting sold for $35,000. This year I was determined to buy the Windjammer painting, but you did the same thing again. You even suggested I take the kids to your mother's for a while. And now we find out that Harris isn't what he seems to be. I can't help but wonder about your excitement when he comes around, with your bright eyes and flushed cheeks. Well, your wish has come true. You're going to spend some time at your mother's house, but not with the children, while I try to sort things out. Maybe that report about Hendricks has some hints. As for you interrupting my plans to get some nice artwork for my office, I really like this artist, Hanson, and her prices are likely going up. You know that new car you wanted this year? That's not happening now. Finally, everyone had left, and Madeline locked the doors. I turned to Freddie as Kathy and Vanessa let her go. I closed my eyes, waiting for Madeline's reaction, but I was surprised when she jumped up, wrapped her arms around my neck, and hugged me warmly. This moment was unexpected and felt important. We shared a bond that was both thrilling and comforting. She finally pulled back to catch her breath and said, "I should be mad at you, but thank you for dealing with that person." The police were going to be busy gathering evidence against him. I remembered something important. My listening device was still on. As soon as I could, I would need to excuse myself and turn it off. I hoped they weren't recording anymore and would let me return it to the police station on Monday. Madeline, Ben, and Alice thanked me for what I had done. Vanessa stayed back with Maria, while Kathy was enthusiastically talking with Freddie, who was still holding on to me. When Freddie finally let go, I excused myself to go to the restroom. On the way, I grabbed a large glass of ice water from the bar set up for guests. Once I was in the restroom, I locked the door, unbuttoned my shirt, and turned off the listening device. After putting it in my suit pocket for safekeeping, I took a sip of the cold water to refresh myself. Don had left with the paintings he bought, and I shot a frustrated look at Freddie. She raised her hands and smiled at me. "Don't be upset, Maria. I couldn't resist. Don is a great guy, and he really impressed me. Harris was trying to make things hard for me again tonight, and Don came to help. Harris has been a tough challenge for me for the last 2 years and a problem in our local art scene for even longer. Don handled him easily. He looked sharp in his new suit, and you even said he reminded you of a knight. For tonight, I felt like I was in a story and wanted to show my gratitude. But I kept it simple, and I wouldn't think of anything more with Don unless you were there to help keep things right. Honestly, Maria, Don deserved recognition, and I wanted to show that." I turned away from Freddie, my fists tight with frustration, and walked off. I knew she meant well. That was just how she was, but I couldn't help feeling upset. I should have been the one sharing those moments with Don. Then a worrying thought hit me. Could I still connect with him like that? I hadn't been keeping up with my workouts, and both Vanessa and Freddie looked so much fitter than I did. I realized I needed to use my home gym and rejoin Vanessa's fitness classes. Maybe I could start going on Tuesday evenings, so I could see Don too. Okay, take deep breaths, Maria, and relax. Your time will come, and I need to be ready for it. But I really wanted to be Don's main source of inspiration. I had a lovely weekend with my daughters. We rented a big house right by the ocean. To make it more fun, I let my girls invite a couple of friends. We enjoyed a beautiful view, the fresh scent of the sea, and delicious seafood for 2 out of 3 meals every day. We lounged in our pajamas, enjoyed treats, played games, watched movies, stayed up late, and had a fantastic time. I had more fun in those 3 days than on any of my expensive trips to Europe. I was so happy, but then Monday morning came. After my girls left for school, Don's sisters visited, and my mood changed. I knew I had made mistakes in my marriage, but they had supported me. "Hello, Diane, Michelle. What brings you here?" I tried hard to keep my irritation out of my voice. "Hi, Barbara. We haven't seen you or your daughters in a while, so we thought we'd check in. How have you been?" "Things are getting better, thank you." Michelle started to explain, "Barbara, we have a problem with our husbands. Since your divorce and realizing that we supported you, they have been acting strangely and have been upset with us too. They think that since we stood by you, we must share the blame. Plus, they really like Don and don't understand how we could have let him down." Diane continued, "For the last couple of years, they've been critical of us and watching us closely. We've tried counseling, but we can't admit our own mistakes, or they would end things with us right away. We know we should be upset with how they act, but we're not, which just makes them believe even more that we've done wrong." Michelle added, "Things got tougher when an investigator started asking questions about Don. Our husbands were there, and the investigator's questions along with our answers really upset them. 2 months ago, our husbands gave us an ultimatum. They had been sharing their worries for a long time. They wanted us to sign a legal document saying if either spouse was unfaithful, the other would get everything they owned together, plus full custody of the children. We agreed, thinking it would ease their minds. We didn't plan to make the same mistakes again. But when we got to the lawyer's office, we found out we had been tricked. The document included past actions too. We felt we had no choice but to sign, as refusing would make it seem like we were guilty. We felt trapped." Diane went on, "We found out that our husbands joined forces to hire private eyes to look into our past. I overheard them talking about checking on us every year until they felt satisfied. We've been contacting everyone who knows about our past, asking them to stay quiet if an investigator comes to them. We know we made mistakes and want to save our marriages. Please help us." I was really angry. More than 5 years ago, I came to you, my best friends and Don's sisters, for help with my marriage. Instead of helping me find a better way to deal with things, you encouraged me to be unfaithful. I can't believe you led me into this. When things went wrong, you should have told Don so he could have had a chance to forgive me. You undermined his dignity. How could you do this to your own brother? You cheered me on while wanting to hear every detail of what I had done. As I was trying to figure things out with Don, I kept telling myself that if his sisters thought it was okay, it wouldn't be a problem if he found out. I understand your worry. Don't worry. I won't lie for you, but I won't talk to any investigators who approach me. I have a question. What steps are you taking to improve your marriages? The only thing I've heard is that you've stopped being unfaithful. You say you can't be honest with your counselors because your past actions had serious effects. Don't look so shocked. You've each been unfaithful at least once a year for the 7 years before my divorce. Some of your stories suggest it happened even more. Diane, did you ever check to see if your youngest child is truly your husband's? How could you keep going with these actions? Your husband could simply ask for tests for your children. Wouldn't that be a simple way to clear things up? This weekend, I decided to start therapy. Have you both thought about seeing a therapist? Everything we talked about would stay private. It would show your husbands that you are truly dealing with the problem. I just had a lovely weekend with my daughters and felt better than I have in years until you both came. You've changed my mood. Please go. I pointed them to the door. With teary goodbyes, Diane and Michelle left, with Michelle helping Diane as they walked out. On Tuesday, Kathy called to tell me that the ski trails were getting muddy and that the ski season was nearly over. She saw this as a good thing because we could only practice on Fridays and Saturdays, when we often felt tired from skiing. This Saturday, she planned to come to my house at 6 p.m. for my Korean pork dinner and the pie. She said my kids and Maria were welcome to join us and that she had already talked to Maria, who agreed to babysit that night. That Tuesday night, I went to Vanessa's club and was surprised to see Maria there. She didn't work out with us until we got to the treadmills. Then she joined me, but she didn't seem very chatty. Still, she looked great while running. Wednesday was our regular therapy night, but Maria fell asleep early after our session. I ended up carrying her to bed. It was funny, she was fast asleep, but my girls followed her into the room to watch another movie. Tradition is tradition, I guess. It doesn't matter if Maria is already asleep. I've been exercising lately to get back in shape. I can't believe how much I've let myself go. It's a wonder I can still give dancing lessons to Dawn. On Tuesday, I thought I'd keep Dawn company at Vanessa's club. That was a mistake. Vanessa pulled me aside before Dawn got there and warned me that I might feel a bit embarrassed. So I decided to watch from a distance, and she was right. It wasn't just the heavy weights. It was how quickly they moved through their sets. I would have just slowed them down. When they started on the treadmills, I decided to join in. Dawn and Vanessa were both running at a good pace. I noticed Dawn was set to run at 7.5 miles per hour, and his treadmill randomly changed the incline. I set mine for a brisk walk at 3.8 miles per hour, with no incline, and found it hard to breathe. Dawn wanted to chat, but I was struggling to keep up. He ran for almost an hour and a half and then cooled down for another half hour, which he called his gravy time since it was easier and had more benefits. After Dawn left, I had a massage and fell asleep on the table for a whole hour. I could barely keep my eyes open on the way home. That Wednesday night, I fell asleep almost as soon as the first movie started. Robin and Megan thought it was funny. Their laughter at the end of the movie woke me up a bit, but I felt so tired that I pretended to still be asleep. Then they did something nice. They went to get their dad, and Dawn carried me to my room. I liked being carried by Dawn. Megan and Robin came right after him. They tucked me into bed, then put a movie in the player and got in bed beside me. I fell back asleep until morning when something surprising happened. Megan woke me up. She and Robin were trying to carry me to the shower. I would have let them for fun, but I worried they might hurt themselves or me. On Saturday night, Kathy arrived for her practice date right on time. She wore nice jeans that looked great on her, along with a pretty white shirt. For some reason, she brought a briefcase. As usual, she greeted me politely at the door, but this time my kids showed her around the apartment while Maria helped with dinner. She seemed to be in a good mood. She even promised to keep Roscoe in his cage that night. After a really tasty dinner, I needed to take a quick shower before we went out. I didn't want to smell like dinner. But Kathy had other ideas. "Dawn, is there somewhere we can talk privately?" After I looked at my daughters, who were paying close attention, and saw Maria watching curiously, I decided against my office. My basement workshop would be the most private place I have. I made sure it was soundproofed so my tools wouldn't bother my tenants. She agreed and followed me down the stairs with her briefcase. In my workshop, I cleared off a couple of chairs by one of my workbenches for us to sit. Looking at me, she began to speak. "Dawn, please don't feel shy. I know you're going through a tough time. I heard your relationship with your ex-wife wasn't great. I doubt it was your fault. I have some books for you about relationships and communication." She put her briefcase on the workbench. I felt tense at the mention of books. She pulled out 5 books, and thankfully I recognized only 3 of them. "I would like you to read these and—" I interrupted her. "No, I can't. I'm sorry to interrupt, Kathy, but I need to tell you something. I realized early in my marriage that I wasn't happy, so I bought similar books. In fact, 3 of mine were among those. I only looked through them because I thought my ex-wife and I would sit down together to read them. I hoped it would help us connect better and be more honest with each other. Barbara firmly refused to look at them, so I placed them in a box and forgot about them. When I was moving out during the divorce, I found them in an old briefcase of Barbara's hidden in the garage. She had written notes and comments in the margins. I glanced at the books and became so upset that I barely made it out of the house before losing my calm. The very books I had bought for us were used for her to learn with others. I'm sorry, Kathy. I know you mean well, but I can't stand to see similar books again. If you will excuse me, I need to go outside for a walk to clear my head. I apologize again. I will see you upstairs. Instead of taking the stairs back up to my apartment, I took the stairs to a separate entrance that led directly outside. Two unusual things happened on my way out. First, I thought I saw the basement door close a little bit before I reached it. Second, when I closed the basement door behind me, I thought I heard Kathy calling something from inside. It must have been my imagination because I don't think anyone could yell loud enough from my soundproofed basement workshop for me to hear. It took me at least 20 minutes to calm down. When I returned to my apartment, I found both Kathy and Maria looking very concerned. I apologized again to Kathy. She said no need to apologize and to forget about it. I then went to my room to freshen up and change, but Maria and Kathy followed me. Kathy spoke first. Dawn, we need to check your clothes. I'm taking you out tonight, and we need to get you dressed properly. They started taking out my clothes and tossing them onto the bed. I heard a lot of no, nope, and you've got to be joking as they looked through my things. Maria finally found an acceptable black polo shirt in the back of my closet that had been a gift years ago. It was a size too small, and I had only tried it on once. Dawn, does this fit you? Yes, but it's too tight. She looked at Kathy, who nodded. They set the polo shirt aside. Then Kathy found another item. Dawn, these gray pants here look new. Yeah, but they are way too tight too. Both women exchanged smiles. Maria said, Dawn, go take your shower and don't worry about us. We'll tidy up in here and leave the clothes on the bed that you should wear tonight. I knew what was coming. Why do I let this happen? Sure enough, when I got out of the shower, the black shirt and the gray pants were on the bed. They had even put out my underwear and socks. One of them had chosen the same style of socks I would have picked, but it was a different pair. There was no way I could fit in those pants comfortably with my usual boxers. After 10 minutes of feeling uneasy, I stepped out of my bedroom, aware of how uncomfortable I felt with each step. Before leaving, I took a quick look in the mirror. I thought I looked decent and didn't seem silly at all, so with some hesitation, I went out to see what my daughters thought. They welcomed me with playful teasing and happy smiles. Maria just stared at me in surprise. Kathy walked around, checking me out from all sides. I think you'll be fine. She took my arm and quickly led me out the door, almost giving me no time to say goodbye. I was curious about what Kathy wanted to talk about with Dawn. When they went downstairs, I quickly told Megan and Robin I needed something from my car and hurried outside to the other entrance of the basement. I wasn't sure if Dawn knew that the key he gave me for the apartment also unlocked the separate basement door. I sneaked down the stairs as quietly as I could and stood outside Dawn's workshop, listening through the door. I heard Kathy say, "You could read these," and then Dawn interrupted, sharing how difficult the books his wife had used were for him. It was frustrating to hear. I felt a strong urge to protect Dawn. Then I heard him say, "The very books that I bought for us, she used for other relationships." It was hard to listen to him. When I heard Dawn say he was going for a walk, I quietly went back upstairs, quietly opened the door, and closed it quickly. I thought I heard Dawn's footsteps on the stairs as I ducked around the corner of the building and hurried away. I wasn't sure which way he would walk, so I wanted to stay out of sight. Quickly circling the building, I returned to the entrance of Dawn's apartment. Thankfully, my friends didn't ask why I had gone to my car since I hadn't brought anything with me. I quickly headed to the bathroom to buy myself some time. I needed a few minutes to calm down after what I had just learned. I didn't want Dawn to know I had been listening, but I needed to help him. I splashed cold water on my face for about 10 minutes, trying to cool myself down. It was lucky I had left some makeup behind because my face looked a mess. When I finally came out, Megan and Robin were still in the apartment, looking out the window. I peeked out, too, and saw Dawn in the distance, walking quickly back toward us. Robin turned to me, looking anxious, and said, "Daddy always takes long walks when he's upset. Do you think everything is okay?" Her worried expression made me pull her into a hug. Megan turned to me while I hugged Robin, and I pulled Megan in for a group hug, too. "Your father is a kind man. He probably just wants some time to himself right now," I said. "So don't worry, he's likely just calming down." Just then, Kathy finally made her way up the stairs. She had been down there for a while. She probably needed some space, too. Kathy wasn't interested in Don like that, but she cared for him as a friend and couldn't stand to see her friends treated badly. When Don came back, we followed him into his room to help him pick out clothes for the evening. I realized he really needed to go shopping. Kathy and I had to sift through his entire closet to find something nice to wear. Even what we picked wasn't perfect, but it should show off his new, fit look. When he stepped out of the bathroom, I was surprised. My friend started whistling in recognition, and I was momentarily speechless. Vanessa had said that he was only partially fit. She was wrong. Don usually liked loose clothes. Even his pajamas seemed too big. But the fitted clothes showed off his figure impressively. I was so flustered that I could barely say goodbye as Kathy pulled him out the front door. That night, I felt really nervous. I knew Kathy wouldn't try to make a move on Don, but what about the other ladies at the clubs they were going to? My friends and I played Monopoly and watched movies at the same time. It was hard to focus on either with my worries about Don. Megan was a sneaky Monopoly player, and I often missed when someone landed on my property, especially when the movie got exciting. Around 1 in the morning, I guided the girls into my room. They eventually fell asleep around 2, but I couldn't sleep at all. Finally, around 3:30, I heard the front door open. Dawn walked in carrying Kathy, who was clearly very tipsy. She had done this before, but I never thought she would with Don. She must really trust him. If she felt upset about something earlier, it might explain her actions. She waved weakly from Don's arms and rested her head on his shoulder. Don took Kathy into his room and laid her on his bed. She will need a bathroom soon, and it would be better if she had a private one. I stayed with her while he got a bucket, some water, a glass, towels, and an ice pack. He seemed very experienced in taking care of someone who had overdone it. Don, you really know what you're doing. Where did you learn this? He shrugged. My sisters could be a bit wild, and I took care of them on many nights. I don't drink much because I never want to end up like that. Kathy seemed okay, but my sisters would drink so much they would embarrass themselves. I cringed at the thought. For the next 2 hours, I helped Kathy feel better. She sang and talked a lot. Don tried to help too, but sometimes he made things a bit awkward, so he stepped away for a while. When she finally fell asleep, Don and I decided to have some fun. He found some Halloween makeup his kids had. Using green and purple hairspray along with my hairspray, we gave her a fun Bride of Frankenstein style. Then Don handed me a new pack of men's underwear with a small size, grinned, and left the room. I had already helped her change out of her tight jeans into some of my pajamas. It took a bit of time, but I chuckled as I left the room. Why do you have such small underwear? I asked. I bought the wrong size and didn't return them. Here's my camera. I don't need to see the pictures, but maybe Vanessa and Freddie would like them, he said with a smile. I smiled back, took the camera, and went back into the room. After all, she used to be a model, so being photographed shouldn't be new to her. The next morning, I got up and went to check on Kathy. Since my daughters were with me, Don had borrowed Megan's bed. When I entered the master bedroom, Don was already there. Kathy was sitting up in bed and looked a bit out of it, especially with her new hair. Don winked at me, letting me know she had not seen her hair yet. He was sitting in a chair next to her, giving her sips of water and small pieces of bread. She looked at me with a pitiful expression, and I almost felt bad about the prank almost. Don handed me the tray with the bread and water. I'll start breakfast. Kathy, how about some nice sausage gravy and biscuits? He asked. Don, don't say that. I might get sick again, she replied sadly. He raised his eyebrows at me, grinned, and left the room. I looked at Kathy and shook my head slowly. Tsk, tsk, tsk. You have been a naughty girl. What were you doing last night that made you drink so much? Kathy looked at me sheepishly, still looking unwell. I'm sorry, Maria. I was just really upset last night and started drinking too fast. I knew Don would take care of me, so I thought it would be okay to relax a little. But I ended up drinking too much too quickly and just kept going all night. I think you should say sorry to Don. Taking care of you at a club is not easy. Vanessa, Freddie, and I have talked about it before. I owe him more than just an apology. I'm pretty sure I got sick in his car last night, she said with a groan. Oh no. I spent some time with Kathy until she was ready to sleep. As I walked out of the room, I wished I could have been the first one in Don's bed, but Kathy needed help, so I didn't feel too upset. The kids were still asleep, so I went to find Dawn. "Did she really get sick in your car last night?" "No, I got the window down just in time, so it only got on the outside. It wasn't a big deal." "How was your night aside from looking after Kathy?" "I had the most boring night. It reminded me of when I babysat my sisters. The music was so loud that you couldn't have a real talk, and there were so many noisy people. With the loud music, many were drinking too much, and some of them were not behaving well. I could hardly tell who was being rude since everyone was so crowded. I just don't understand how people enjoy that." When Dawn talked about some people being rude, I felt protective. Strangers were being too forward with my Dawn. I don't go out much anymore, but if someone crossed a line, I always made a scene to get help. My friends didn't always have that chance, and with how Dawn looked last night, it was no surprise he got attention, but it should have been respectful. Around an hour later, Megan and Robin woke up. Dawn and I sent them in to see Kathy with a large mirror while I stayed by the door with Dawn's camera. Kathy didn't have the energy to react, but she still showed her discomfort. That's how it goes, right? Later that afternoon, I took my family shopping. Dawn needed some new clothes, and I wanted to buy my girls some robes and slippers. When it came to Dawn's clothes, he let me choose the styles and colors, but he complained a bit about the prices until I gave him my look that said, "Enough." When it was time to pay, I had to give him that look again, and even mention Roscoe, before he finally put his wallet away. I had a great time shopping, and someday soon I'll have to get him that Mustang, maybe a convertible. We would look great in it.